The hour of 11:30 having arrived, the City Council will come to order. Madam Clerk, would you be kind enough to call the roll?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Triguero.
Here.
Bruner.
Present.
Newsom.
Present.
Boulder. O'Hara.
Here.
Vice Mayor Kalantori Johnson. Present. And Mayor Keeley.
Here. A quorum having been established, we will move on to oral communications. This would be the opportunity for anyone who is with us today in chambers or online who may wish to comment on an item under our jurisdiction but not on today's agenda for a period of time not to exceed 2 minutes. This would be your opportunity to do so. In the event that we have folks both in chambers and online, we will toggle back and forth between someone who is here and someone who's online. First person in line, welcome to the City Council meeting. Be pleased to hear your comments under oral communication. Good afternoon. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, council members. I wanted to talk briefly about the timing of the budget hearing. As you know, we live in one of the most unaffordable cities in the country, which makes it hard for many people to find the time and mental bandwidth to make their voices heard. Many people I've talked to and
Sir, let me tell you that we will be taking up the budget. This is about budget.
Well, it's about the timing. My request is that in the future.
Then you can do that when we get to the budget later in the day.
How much time will I have for public comment during the budget hearing?
You'll have 2 minutes.
Okay, well then I will just shorten my comments and say that I ask that in the future that the budget hearing be held at night.
Excuse me. We don't talk over each other here. You don't have the floor because you're not addressing what I said you could address. You can address an item not on our agenda, but under our jurisdiction. I just explained to you the budget is on our agenda later today, and you are welcome to make any comments on the budget later on, including your thoughts on when it should be held. Those hearings should be held. But thank you for that.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone online?
No one with their hand up.
Good afternoon. Good morning. Welcome to the City Council meeting.
My name is Michael Spatafora. You guys know who I am. Okay, so we had a meeting scheduled for March 27th regarding the short timeline of the bridge. You guys canceled it because Councilmember Bruner was at a safety meeting. It was canceled per Fred Keeley. We responded back to that meeting, supposed to have been held in April, the 15th, 16th, or 17th. We didn't hear anything back from you guys. It's now the 26th of May. When's the bridge closing? Right? We don't know. When was the last time that you guys updated your website to tell us about the status of the bridge? March 10th. We were supposed to be getting communications all the time on this. We have staff, we have scheduling. We have all kinds of things we have to do to stay in business, and you guys can't communicate anything to us. You guys really think that's fair? Right? You guys said, we learned so much the last time you guys screwed us and closed down the bridge, right? And you guys haven't done any outreach to us, whatever. Any events you guys done for us yet? No, right? So we're trying to stay in business. I've already lost one business, and I'm about ready to lose another one. So why? Why haven't we heard anything from you guys? I know the library, you guys post things on the construction of the library all the time, which really didn't need to be done at the same time as the bridge being done, right? Maybe you should have saved the money so you get the bridge done faster. But, we're trying to stay in business. We're trying to keep people employed. And you guys, you'd think you'd be able to maybe stick to some of the things you say you do, and you guys can't. I mean, when's the bridge going to close? How much time do I have before I cut my staff's hours? How much time do I have before I run out of making money to save for next winter? I already pulled $40,000 on my 401k to make it through this past winter. How much am I going to have to pull out this year? Thank you very much.
Anyone else online? Next person in line. Good morning. Welcome to the City Council meeting.
Good morning. My name is Seth Heitzenritter. I'm the general manager of La Posta restaurant in Seabright, and I came to ask a similar question as Mr. Spatafora of just the when we can expect the date of the bridge to close for June.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, welcome.
Hey there, everybody, council. For Councilmember O'Hara, Watashi wa Brad Des, Bradley Snyder. Yeah, you know, I think it is impactful when they do close the bridge, because if you know kind of the contours of the county, that's like it's really cutting off circulation to both sides, and then you get the harbor and the restaurants and the businesses there, and you've got the all the stuff on Seabright. Sure Council Member Brunner is familiar with all the businesses there. All I think about is like how much more expensive the sandwiches are at Days Market than when I was a teenager. $1 for a tin fish sandwich or an egg salad sandwich. But yeah, no, I think it is really hard for those businesses, because just like downtown, you see the Cushman Wakefield agency trying to rent the old O'Neill or lease the old O'Neill. Across, you've got Palace Arts with the huge, was Palace Arts, and then I don't know how active Cinnamon 9 is. Don't see people going to movies there. I don't think it's really open. The Rio Theater sort of did that. It just kind of, went into quiescence. The Del Mar, I don't see too many people going there, and the Nickelodeon closed. But, so there's a lot of changes, I guess commercially, and maybe business has to adapt to that. But for most retail places, walk-in traffic's the lifeblood of it. I'm trying to think, there was something else I wanted to mention. That's there is a copy of Robert's Rules of Order at this cafe way up in the mountains, so I can now hope to see Fred Keeley at the Treehouse Cafe in Boulder Creek. But yeah, I know. 8 seconds. Not enough time. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Good morning, welcome.
So I want to talk about an ordinance the city has, unlike the county, whereby in order to demolish buildings that are slated for development, you have to have a building permit. So what that means is we have to look at the blight along Ocean between Water and Mary Ann's, the blight at Branciforte and Stanford, waiting for a building permit, as opposed to go to Soquel and 41st, where the King's Paint and the car wash across from Home Depot, demolished, chain link fence, green screen, looks okay. And what every visitor from over the hill coming this summer has to leave and look at all that blight between, the Togos, the fireplace. It makes no sense. It's really, and these sit there for years looking like that. Maybe you can address that. Thank you.
Thank you. You had not exhausted your time.
Okay. The other ordinance you have is about sewer laterals. Yes, for sewer lateral, I wish I was going to bring props and pictures, but a sewer lateral has to have a clean out, which consists of a white cap that will pop up if there's a backup. Okay, so all the sewage, poop water, whatever you want to call it, blows out of that. Well, in most places, it's on the property, on one's property, 11 feet, inside the property. So if it blows up, boom, it goes into the grass, no harm, fertilize, whatever. They're requiring the sewer lateral, the clean out, to be in the sidewalk, which is a $5,000 job in most cases. By the way, and sidewalks are sloped down for rainwater to go into the gutter. Guess what? That poop water is going to go down into the gutter, into those drains with the dolphins on them, into the bay. Nobody else does that except Santa Cruz. Maybe you want to look at that too. Thanks.
Always bring the most delightful topics to our attention. Thank you for that. Anyone else on oral communication? Let me say to the folks who spoke about the issues associated with the Murray Street Bridge, we cannot take action based on oral communication because at any meeting, because it's not on our agenda. That'd be a violation of the law. What I can tell you is that the council member in the district, I know, has a number of actions that she's working on. I know that our city communications folks have a full package of items too. And Ms. Smart, would you raise your hand? Mr. Spatafora, you may want to speak with Ms. Smart because it is my understanding there are a number of things going on. So I think it may be helpful for you two to talk before you leave today on that issue. All right, I'm going to draw your attention to an item number 1, which is the Xingu delegation report back. What we will be doing because of scheduling issues for that delegation of folks, we will be taking that at the end of our agenda today because they're not able to be here at the front end of the agenda. So we'll simply take item 1 and move it to the end of our agenda today. We are on presiding officer announcements. I will use this opportunity to say that this over the weekend was Memorial Day, a day that we do acknowledge and thank and respect those who have served our country and in many cases obviously have given the full measure of their devotion to the country and to the freedoms that we enjoy, and want to make sure that we have on the record how much we love and value the contributions that others have made over the last 250 years to this democracy and to the republic. We are on statement of disqualifications. Any member have a disqualification on the consent agenda? Council member.
Agenda item number 7 as it relates to my employment.
7, thank you. Anyone else on any items on the consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none. Are there additions or deletions to our agenda today?
I have none, no.
Have none. Madam City Attorney?
No.
Very good, thank you. We did not have a closed session today, so I imagine you don't have a report on a non-existing
Nothing to report, Mayor.
closed session. All right, thank you. Council meeting calendar, Madam City
No changes.
Clerk. Okay, very good, thank you. We are on the consent agenda. For those of you that might not be familiar with it, the way we handle a consent agenda is that items 3 through 13 will be taken up as one item. Before we get to that item, there will be the opportunity for council members to pull an item, comment on an item, or ask a question on an item. Then I will give you the opportunity to do the same thing, members of the public who are either with us in chambers or will be online. Keep in mind that if you are going to be commenting on items on the consent agenda, whether you're commenting on one item or 10 items, you'll have 3 minutes total to make your comments. So let me start with Council Member Golder, and then I will go to Council Member O'Hara, then I will go through the rest of our council members. Council Member. Very good. Council Member O'Hara, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mayor. No comments. Thank you.
I'm sorry. No comments?
Good morning, Mayor. No comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Vice Mayor. None for me either. Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Newsom, Councilmember, all right, Councilmember Bruner.
Thank you. I have a comment brief on agenda item 9. It's update to the city emergency operations plan for updates 2025 to 2030. And I just wanted to express extreme appreciation for this ongoing long process and where we are with these updates for our city. And I encourage everyone to go into the agenda packet and pull out that emergency operations plan. I'm sure it's on the city website as well, but Good work. I think, it's so important to keep it updated as we learn from past emergencies and as we prepare for future emergencies. So thank you on getting those updates done. The other agenda item is agenda item number 12, Active Transportation Plan Cycle 8 grant proposal under Public Works. And this one specifically impacts District 1, Gabriela Triguero's district, and my district, District 2. And I just want to say that we hear a lot from our constituents regarding roads safety, driving safety, bicycle safety. Our active transportation plan, we recently heard at our April 28th council meeting. It's been, I don't know, over a year process that our transportation team has had community meetings, online surveys, and all kinds of information. Again, it's on our city website. And as we continue to invest in improved conditions for transportation around the city, this one specifically, I applaud. Its grants are a great way to get at some of the list of items that we want to invest in our city and help pay for these items. This is a neighborhood connectivity item, and it really connects several key areas that have been identified as having a need. And so throughout our budget, you will see if you dive in that we are investing in all of these road safety, traffic calming, neighborhood connectivity, and having grants offset all of this important work that our community deserves, needs, and that we continue to prioritize and invest in. I just want to say thank you to the transportation team and Public Works and everybody involved in this. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chiguera on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to echo Councilmember Bruner's comments on 9 and 12. And again, really appreciate the department's, the transportation department's work towards securing essential grants for improving our connectivity on the east side, where Councilmember Bruner and I have our districts. I did have one question about, I think it's the pump station. Is that number 13? Number 13. Is this going to be the same size as the prior pump station, or is this going to be a larger pump station that's coming in on item 13? Thank you, staff.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mayor Keeley and council members. This will be split into 2 pump stations to accommodate for the increased capacity.
Increased capacity. Thank you. I think there's a lot of residents that are interested in that increased capacity. Thank you.
That's the design. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Members of the public, this is your opportunity to comment on the consent agenda. In the event that we have folks in chambers and online, we will toggle back and forth. Good morning. On the consent agenda, sir.
So yeah, the active transportation program, Cycle 8 grant proposal. So yeah, I do think that's one thing that the city really needs is so the sidewalks to the motorists appear to be like interstitial space, like not like a valid place. You can't drive there, typically or whatever. But in some ways, it's that principle of like the rising tide lifting all boats. Like if the pedestrians have egress, and safe places to go, I feel like what often gets applied is like things that are overly expensive, overly kind of overbuilt, and in some ways like kind of impede pedestrians, and they've got, I don't know, like too much a portion to the bike lane or to, so it's got to be usually it's got to be a balance. But I've said a number of times, I've said that I think that the circular intersections, which work for really well for summer traffic, well, at least much better for summer traffic, and and generally were a big success for the. I don't know exactly who was mayor. It might have been Ryan Coonerty at the time when they commissioned those circular intersections. The intersection at Morrissey and Soquel and Water is it's a remarkably tangled mess that could very, very easily be made into a single circular flow pattern that with no stoplights, essentially. And it might seem like a step back from expensive infrastructure, but it actually would serve pretty much every single vehicle going from any direction to any other direction there. You could even have a bus stop that buses going in both directions could serve the same bus stop. It's really a wide area if you kind of, the only irregular part of it is like the outer edge of the Safeway's, Morrissey Safeway's parking lot. And if you've ever been there, they don't really take that good of care of it. It's like a lot of junk there a lot of the time. But, honestly, I mean, you could, as eminent domain, just make it circular there. Anyway, so yeah, I was living there when they put the circular intersections. I was living at 401 Pacific, and it certainly improved things. It was funny. One truck actually ran right onto the median when they first changed it. Like they had no idea they'd changed it, and so cars are a little bit automatic sometimes, even without computers driving them. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online? We'll take the person online, then we'll be right with you. Person online, good morning. Welcome to the City Council meeting, and here to hear your comments on the consent agenda.
Yes, as to item 6, it seems you want to assign a continuing contribution to an ever fatter, larger regional authority beyond the reach of the people, installing one or more unelected bureaucrats in a minority decision-making position of deciding how to spend our monies without public oversight. I abhor such regional authorities of any kind. In truth, the mostly falsehood of an irreversible existential threat to humanity because of man's production of CO2, fear-mongered first by the IPCC as to occur by 2030, will soon, within 3 years, be shown for what it is, a big lie. The IPCC already backtracked their worst-case scenarios because they know they will suffer the same fate as Al Gore's inconvenient but personally financially rewarding fairy tales about polar ice caps gone and stronger storms. Note, all the so-called grant accomplishments listed seem mostly only to benefit and produce a larger and more expensive government or pay-me contractors for roadmaps or self-serving energy providers and no actually provable improvements to climate. The socialist idea of providing 256 EV chargers just to low-income neighborhoods perhaps doesn't account for just how many low-income people actually drive EV cars, like none, or are you going to buy them EV cars also? The I in IPCC stands for intergovernmental, which tells anyone what they're about: government, bigger, more expensive, and a more controlling government. The climate change alarmist movement was never about climate, but about control, money, and really considering how aligned it is with other protest movements like anti-Zionist, Free Palestine, funded such CPP funded like Code Pink and many others. Most suspiciously, they never seem to protest against China. The movement is very anti-West, anti-capitalism, and promotes real chaos, which is what happens when energy sources we actually rely on for civilization come under such unnecessary attack. The dire existential threat fearmonger climate change movement that has already started to collapse under its own falsehoods like COVID, like many other overblown responses to overblown crises, as the elements of power, less control, anti-West chaos producers shift to other tactics. Like California, in which 0.2% of the population flee every year lately, Santa Cruz in particular will be the last to get it, reality that is, and will become that ever-shrinking puddle of blue goo. By making this assignment of monies before the budget process, you are assigning this the highest priority budget item there is above all else, police, fire, whatever. Such is the case with your every pre-budget dedicated assignment of tax monies. And it's on the consent agenda, no less. Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
I noticed the downtown DPE plan expansions on the consent agenda. And I'm reading multi-purpose arena. City staff and development representatives continue to meet monthly to make progress on the development of Where's my invitation? I own the property where the arena goes. Seriously. Maybe somebody could let me in? I mean, I'm the kingmaker at the end of the day, so check on that one too. Thanks.
Thank you. High entertainment value. Thank you. Anyone else on the consent agenda? Matters back before the body, pleasure of the body. There's a motion
I'll
by
second.
Councilmember Golder, second by the Vice Mayor. Further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Triguero,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye, with the exception of agenda item number 7.
Newsom,
Aye.
Golder. Aye. O'Hara,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalentari Johnson.
Aye.
And Mayor Keeley.
Aye. Motion passes and so ordered. We are on item 14. This is the second reading and final adoption of ordinance 2026-11 relating to the city's local preference policy. We have the measure in front of us. There was an opportunity 2 weeks ago for members of the public to provide comment on this. There have been several meetings with members of the public on this topic. This matter is before the body. I will open this second reading hearing. Anyone with us wish to make comment on this item? Anyone online wish to comment on the item?
No one with their hand raised.
Okay. I am wondering if what we might do is if I could be allowed, I did receive a couple of telephone calls this morning on this. I want to deal with this item today. What I would like to do is see if we could move this item to later in the day so I could have an opportunity to complete a couple of those conversations. So unless there is objection, I would like to continue this item to later in our agenda today. Seeing and hearing no objection, we will do it that way. We are on item 15. This is a series of proposed city charter amendments. Ms. Bush provided a very thorough presentation on this at a previous city council meeting, and this has been available to members of the public to review. I imagine I am not alone in receiving a bit of input from folks on this. I will turn this over to the city clerk for any additional comments.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I will quickly go through the same PowerPoint I went through last time. Aside from some input that I received today, I have not received anything, so I don't know what comments you have received or if they're applicable to edits, proposed edits, or if they're just comments, but either way, we'll go through it. I have applied the comments that I got today to the PowerPoint, and I will address those really quick. So this is the second public hearing that is required by law. First one was held after business hours, and then we have this one. The next one will be the third public meeting that is required. Does not have to be a public hearing, and that will be at your discretion to call an election to adopt a resolution. So this would be the timeline. I just went over it. I don't need to reiterate it, but the next step would be the June 23rd meeting to call an election. Now onto the edits. So I'm not going to go into detail, but some of the general changes are the layout, adding gender neutral language, adding a table of content that wasn't there before, and just general typos. The first section is 601 for the council member term. This states that the term begins at the meeting following their election, which does not align with the new primary election because their term actually follows the general election. So the language is to align that. Section 602 is being updated. When Measure E happened, there was no specification on what happens when a council member moves out of the district that they're appointed to, what happens if the mayor moves out of the city. This is just to add some clarification as to when somebody moves out of the district that they are appointed. Section 603 salary, there are no procedural changes happening here. It was just to remove the specification of a dollar amount that is out of date or outdated. It was outdated dollar amount. So this is just to remove the dollar amount because, and I can look to the city attorney if she has anything to add, but the municipal code is what sets that, not the charter anyway. So I can turn to the city attorney.
Yeah,
Madam City Attorney.
Hi, that's correct. The charter has a dollar value, but then also says that the salaries can be increased by ordinance, which the council has done from time to time. So the current amount is set in the city's municipal code. So the desire here is to just take out the amount that is outdated and to have a reference to the municipal code, which does set the salaries.
Thank you.
Section 604, previously the council would rotate between November and December to appoint the vice mayor based on election year. That is no longer really applicable, so we are just going to put it, or propose to put it in December across the board so that newly elected council members would have an input on who the next vice mayor is. .605 is just for clarity. It says if there is ever any vacancies that at the next general election, a vacancy can be fulfilled. This edit provides more flexibility, whether it be the primary, a special election, or a general election, as opposed to it specifying a general election. Section 607, voting, because we're hybrid, it just makes more sense to do a roll call voice vote instead of what we would normally do, and you guys just say it, just because it's not always clear who is voting how. Section 608 for ordinances, this is just cleanup language regarding when council needs to come back for a first reading. If at a first reading there are any, or at a second reading there are edits, it then requires to come back for another first reading. This is just for word clarity, not context clarity, or not context. Publication of ordinances, again, another cleanup for clarity. This is something that we do on our end when an ordinance is introduced for publication and our requirements to publish it in 3 places and what the charter requires for that. Okay, so section 614, regular meetings. At my last presentation, I explained that given the July break, the December cancel of the second meeting, as well as the need to consolidate meetings given conflict with holidays. Our charter, we had essentially kind of been not in alignment with the charter, so not in compliance with it. So our charter says at least 2 meetings a month. This is just to change it to at least 1 meeting a month so that council is in compliance at any of those moments. The cancellation of the second meeting in December, the July break is not applicable in this situation because that is calendared at the beginning of the year, so it's pretty transparent, and the need to consolidate given holidays. That does not mean council cannot hold more than 1 meeting a month.
Right.
It just provides that you all are in compliance with the charter. This is to update, to align this section with the changes that were made with Measure E and the need for a potential runoff election as a general election. And that's when council members are appointed. are elected. This is just cleanup language. It was specific to the 2022, which is when Measure E was adopted, so it's not applicable moving forward after that, so I removed it. So section 801, let's see. This was to remove the city clerk as appointed by the city council, and it is to align the charter with resolution number NS 28324, which appoints the city manager, or which allows the city manager to appoint the city clerk. And then that is also per section 806 of the charter. Section 804, the city manager appointment. I will turn to the city attorney for this as well. This is one that I did receive some feedback via email today with a suggested language change. I would need to have council discuss that potential if you want to just delete it as is or review the suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, I could just simply say what's currently in our charter is unconstitutional under the California Constitution. So the desire is to just align our charter with the California Constitution on that point.
Section 806, city manager, powers and duties. I will also turn to the city attorney for this one.
This one is a little bit more tricky. What is currently in our charter is very broad, and it would prohibit even somebody who was a cousin or nephew, niece of the city manager from taking any position of employment with the city, even including some entry-level positions. This type of clause could be challenged on discrimination grounds, given that it's just a clear bar, not very tailored to, the types of positions that the city manager would directly be overseeing. With that said, the city, I guess there is a reasonable concern that perhaps the city manager shouldn't be overseeing people who are related by blood or marriage. So I believe there is a plan to implement an anti-nepotism policy, which would be more tailored and better address this type of situation.
Thank you.
Section 813, Director of Finance, powers and duties. This is just to change the annual report to be, or the report to be annual as opposed to monthly. And this was something that I checked in with the finance director on, and the finance department formally closes their accounting periods once a year. So it is not feasible, or the reports are not available on a monthly basis. So this is to change it from monthly to annual. So for the creation of boards or commissions, currently the charter says that council can create a board or commission by ordinance. This edit is not taking away that power. It is adding other options in order to create them, which adds a little more flexibility. And it just expands the available options to council on how to create them without being confined with the limitation of an ordinance, timing wise, when it gets adopted, when it gets enacted, when so this is just more flexibility. So any questions on the proposed edits?
You ask if there are questions, Madam Vice Mayor.
This is maybe more procedural questions, just around the nepotism one and our plan to bring forward a policy around nepotism rather than keeping it in the charter. What's the question I'm trying to ask? Can we, as part of voting on accepting this proposed amendment, give direction to do that, just so that we voted on it and it's clear and the public knows that we're doing it?
I don't see an issue with that. If the council wanted to just explicitly state that to make clear that it is our intent to come forward and
With an
complete.
anti-nepotism policy.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Then when the time is appropriate, I'll probably make that motion. And then the other question, I don't know if it's for our city clerk, our city attorney. So the language we have right now around requiring that our city manager live in the city is illegal. It's not legal. And there's some recommended language here based on some comments we got from a community member. How have other communities handled this? I mean, I think it's a good point that this is an important position. There should be familiarity of the person in the position with our community. Have other communities done something like this that highly recommend that they live in the city or within X miles? Have we seen this? Like, what's a best practice is my question.
Yeah, I haven't personally seen that. So I can't give you any information about that, unfortunately. My recommendation was simple, to just strike the language, and I saw some suggestions this morning about maybe something a little bit more suggesting. Perhaps that type of language could be outside of the charter is another option, especially if it's more of a suggestion.
How would that look if it were outside of the charter? Where would it live?
Perhaps a council policy, if you wanted to do some sort of a council policy about locations of where, and that would be easier to amend too.
Okay, that's something to consider. Okay, those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions, comments? Would you put up section 813, 813 again for a moment? The report that is being referenced here is, if I am not mistaken, this is your essentially, this is what we used to call the CAFR, right? This is a big comprehensive report. So I want to make sure that I'm pretty sure I know what we're talking about. This is what you're talking about when you say annually.
Correct.
Okay. That is different than us receiving regular and periodic, including essentially monthly reports as to, here's the status of our revenue and our expenditures based on the approved budget, so that if you noticed some decline in the sales tax or the TOT that was at substantial variance with the assumptions embedded in the adopted budget, you wouldn't wait until the annual report to bring that to our attention.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, so,
these are, please go ahead.
yeah, so this is specifically for audited financials that we bring. Since we don't close monthly, we do have the data, and we do bring in things like the investment report. Those are other things that we bring. So yes, we can certainly do that.
Thank you, because I don't want anyone to think you're going to give us a peek at things once a year. You are always bringing items to our attention that are at variance one way or the other, so that if it's necessary to make any course correction during the year, including our mid-year hearings in the January, February timeframe, you're not waiting for those either. Those are the target dates for making any adjustments, but we will continue to receive regular and periodic important updates on our revenue and expenditures, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you very much. This would be the opportunity for anyone who is with us today to make a comment on these proposed amendments to our charter. Good morning and welcome.
Yeah, hello, my name is James Ewing Whitman, addressing the city of Santa Cruz, which is a corporation. What country are we in? It's a fascist country? Wasn't this country founded as a constitutional republic? And as such, doesn't Article 4, Section 4 of our Constitution specify and guarantee to every state of the Union a constitutional republic form of government? Do we have this with the city manager situation? We do not at all. Obviously, I would have liked to have been here for other times, but my ego wanting me to tell a doctor to not touch me made it so I was late. Anyway, it's just really kind of fascinating to see stuff where I wish if people were a little bit more educated on how government is supposed to work in the United States, not how it is working. It's my understanding that every charter city and county, the elected officials are guilty of misprision of treason and seditious conspiracy. And it's my understanding that that's 2 to 7 years in a federal penitentiary. Obviously, I was planning on speaking on other subjects. It just seemed like I could state some things that were kind of relevant to this situation and try to have a sense of humor and stuff. I would have loved to have been here on time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Welcome. While the gentleman's approaching, do we have anyone online?
No one with their hand up. No.
Not at this point. Please proceed.
Don't wanna walk on anybody out in the Zoom world who wants to talk. Yeah, I mean, while you're doing modifications to the mayoral primary system, you might sneak in a jungle primary. It would be kind of fun to have only 2 candidates to look at. Obviously, I'm joking. One of the concerning things I think is I personally feel pretty strongly the city manager should live in the city. I know a lot of the there's a few of the kind of people in the city that I used to serve as a checker up in Scotts Valley, and I know a lot of the city officials live in Scotts Valley because let's face it, Scotts Valley's got a lot going for it in terms of lowest crime rate in the county, some pretty nice shopping, a lot of amenities, a lot of 10, 12 minutes closer to San Jose. I do think that's is kind of meaningful. I don't know. I mean, you have plenty of time. I guess you're just authorizing meetings to to pretty much discuss these changes. So I don't know. Maybe we will get a jungle primary for the mayor.
Thank you. Anyone online with their hand up? Matter is back before the body. Pleasure of the body.
I'd like to make a motion. I haven't sent it to you yet, Bonnie, because I was still typing it up. So I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to return to council at the June 23rd, 2026 meeting with a resolution calling an election to place a measure on the November ballot, to develop an anti-nepotism policy for the, just an anti-nepotism policy by the end of this calendar year, and to develop a council policy recommending but not requiring that the city manager live within the county and or within 30 miles of the city of Santa Cruz. I just picked 30 miles, honestly. I don't know what the right miles is. So if anyone has a friendly amendment, I'd probably accept that. So let me send that to you. I got it. Oh, okay.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Brunner. Madam Vice Mayor, you may open on your motion.
Thank you. I want to thank the city clerk for your eyes and all the things that you caught and all the work that you did. I know that some of this you said is cleanup, but I know that takes a lot of work. And I think there's some significant pieces in this charter amendment around what happens now that we're in districts and someone who's a renter who may have to move out. So there's a lot of equity pieces that I see in here. And I appreciate some of the comments that were brought forward, and I think the additional direction addresses those community concerns. So that's all. Thank you.
For the debate or discussion, Councilmember Brunner.
Thank you for addressing those in your amendment. And my question is, I wonder if we could, the mileage is a number you threw out, and you did reference within the county. And so a way to keep it more broad is, I'd like to throw it back to you if there's a way to strike out the mileage and just keep it for them to return within the county or some recommended mileage.
Yeah, I'm definitely amenable to that. So change it to live within the county and or a recommended mileage, and staff can kind of see what best practice is. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, recommended mileage From the county or from the city?
From the city.
Further debate or discussion? Question, Madam City Attorney, weigh in on this.
Yeah, so I haven't specifically looked as to whether or not we can require that the city manager live in the county. So but I think the direction is broad enough, and you had the recommended mileage, and I think it kind of gives us discretion to look into the legality of all of this and to bring something back to you that is legal.
And the motion does say recommend, not require. I explicitly said not require because that's not legal, right?
It wouldn't be illegal to require that the city manager live in the city. There's a separate question of would it be legal to require that the city manager live in the county? And I don't know the answer to that right now, but that's something, if you were interested in potentially that direction, it's something, our office could look into further.
No, I don't think we should do a require. And I was saying county just to, give it a little bit more. Someone might live in an unincorporated area and it's just literally on the other side of the city. So I was trying to be a little bit more flexible there. But I'll stick with the recommended and not require. Yeah, thank you.
For the debate or discussion,
Mayor,
debate or discussion?
Mayor, excuse me, it's Susie.
Rory. Councilmember O'Hara. Please
Thank you,
proceed.
Mayor. I just wanted to align with the motion and appreciate the Vice Mayor for trying to thread this needle. I will say that, to my recollection, we have for different departments, distance requirements for instance, I believe, and maybe this is outdated, our operations team has to live within a certain distance of the city for the purpose of being available during emergencies. And so as we consider the question of the of the city manager's residing location, I do think that I support some distance to the city for that same purpose, right? We would not want folks hours away in the event that we need people here under those kind of circumstances. And so I do support us looking into that and understanding what policy would be appropriate. But I do think we need to think about if there are other departments that have current policies and making sure that they're in alignment with that. And then I also support the direction of the anti-nepotism policy. I don't think it needs to obviously reside in the city charter, but I do think that we need to look through that and think about that not just within the context of the city manager, but other executive positions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Can I just get
Certainly.
To be totally clear, it will be presented on the 23rd as is, like everything else was additional.
That was the intent of my motion.
Councilmember Triguero?
Aye.
Brunner?
Aye.
Newsom?
Aye.
Holder?
Aye.
O'Hara?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson?
Aye.
And Mayor Keeley?
Aye. Motion passes and so ordered. We are on item 16. This item is a public posting of vacant funded positions and recruitment and retention efforts in compliance with Assembly Bill 2561. We have material in our packet, and we have our outstanding Chief People Officer, Ms. De Leon, here. Ms. De Leon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh, yes. All right. So this is our annual report for Assembly Bill 2561. This is actually year 2 of our reporting. As we go through this presentation, I'll be hitting on 3 points as laid out before you, all of which are requirements of the law, each of the 3 items. So first, I'll be presenting the workforce vacancies before final budget, which will be on June 9th. Our recruitment and retention efforts for anything that has a vacancy rate over 20%, as well as providing an opportunity for union partners to present. So you might remember this light. It is not red. The engine is not broken. This is our check engine light. As a reminder, or for those who do not know, a vacancy we define as an unoccupied or vacant budgeted or authorized position. The rate is a point in time of those vacant positions at that point of time, which in this case is March 9th, 2026. So again, we are signaling attention. Great legislation really gives us an opportunity to see where things are, how they're going. Some important considerations as part of our vacancy rate are that it is a point in time. So it does not reflect anything that is currently being recruited, in process, or recently selected. There may be evolution of needs. Maybe someone's recently had a 25-year position vacated due to retirement and they want to consider new operational changes. We have to wait for the appropriate budget cycle to do that. So sometimes that can lengthen the term for something to be vacant. Not all vacancies are employer-driven. People do decide to retire or resign. So that's important to note. We also have a timeline typically for those recruitments, typically about 3 months to hire. And so depending on that point in time and where exactly that recruitment came in, can work for or against us. There's also another aspect of long-term leaves of absence. Whether something is vacant because of a medical need, whether required under our Family Medical Leave Act, or even a workers' comp injury in case that may have the person still in the position, but not actually available to do the work. That is not included in any of these vacancy numbers, but it is an important operational distinction because of that impact of that person not being available. And we'll speak to how we get around that obstacle a little later. I have up here a 10% baseline is about, if I start seeing things over 10% is when I start to worry. We have natural ebbs and flows because of these considerations for vacancies. Also, if you were to Google it, it is about a state and agency-wide average. People typically look at things above 10. So, a little tiny, I apologize. The vacancy rate by group as of the 3/9 date, our fire management, firefighters, everyone's looking under 10 except for our police management and police officers. So we'll be paying special attention there. There is in the staff report the vacancies by classification. The numbers start to jump as you look at them by classification, but just know everything is under recruitment when you start to see larger numbers. I wanted to show you, based on the 3/9 data, the changes from the year before. So you can see that our Police Management Association, as well as Police Officers Association, look to be in the lead of the highest vacancy rates, with the other adjustments either lowering or just increasing a bit for the other organizations. Like I said, one of the considerations is recruitment. Our Police Management Association, that 14% was because of one vacancy that has recently been filled. So they are back at 0. And so we will be focusing our attention today on the Police Officers Association. Before we do that, I wanted to focus on some high-level items to consider as part of our recruitment efforts. We still maintain a 2-analyst model, which has built our recruitment capacity. We also rely on continuous recruitments for certain vacancies, particularly with the POA. We just leave them open as long as possible to try to get applications as people apply and move them into the process. The police department continues their efforts as well for outreach and mentorship for all new hires. When I mentioned earlier the medical, someone being away because of medical, we really use our overhire policy. I believe it's APO 252 to ensure that for those absences, we can actually overhire for those positions to get bodies to do the work depending on that outage. And then we've also had our negotiation cycle this round. So we'll speak a bit to those efforts. So, Police Officers Association, 2025, they were 16.5% vacant. They're not quite at 20, but because they're so darn close, I thought I'd present on them anyway. So I wanted to remind of the out-of-cycle increase we did in 2024 of 2.5%. You might say, Sarah, that was quite some time ago. Why would we add that here? Well, those things compound with COLAs. So it is still valid, especially with this renewed MOU in 2026. We did a 4-4-4 over 3 years, totaling 16%. We also did something pretty cool that was brought forward by the police, some of our police leadership, which was we with their 12-month probationary period, we made an extra increase sooner. So rather than waiting till 18 months to get their annual increase, it's now at 12. We're seeing the loss earlier, 3 to 5 years of individuals, and so we're hoping not only with the salary increase, but the faster jumping through the scale will hopefully keep people longer. We had some changes to the education incentive as well as our holiday increase. I wanted to point out at least these financials. We continue to make those efforts to fill these positions. If there are any questions, I'm available. And otherwise, item 3, oh, it went dark, would be any organizations that wish to present as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Golder is recognized.
I just have one question, and I apologize if I missed it, but what is the vacancy rate for police officers? Like,
Sure.
yeah, at like the national level? Do you?
I do not know, actually.
Okay.
I would have to check that.
I'm assuming it's a bigger issue than here in the city of Santa Cruz, just knowing from other jurisdictions in California, but okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? This would be the opportunity for anyone who is with us in our chambers or online to make comment on this item. Do we have anyone online with their hand up?
No one with their hand up.
We do not. Last call. Matters back before the body. Pleasure of the body.
I'll move. What is my motion?
Whatever it is, I'll second it.
Item number 16, public posting of vacant.
Yes, to receive the report and the
Receive the report, thank you.
Debate or discussion. We have a motion by the Vice Mayor, a second by Councilmember Golder. Further debate or discussion. Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmembers Triguero.
Aye.
Brunner.
Aye.
Newsom.
Aye.
Golder.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Keeley.
Aye. Motion passes and so ordered. All right. We are on item 17. This is the fiscal year 26-27 fiscal year proposed budget as presented by the city manager and the finance department with the participation and cooperation of both staff as well as members of our workforce. This document was released some time ago for the public and for the council to be able to review and comment on it. We will hear from Ms. Cabell. We will receive a presentation, then there will be questions and comments by council members. We will also take input from the public. I want everyone to understand this is not the meeting at which we will be adopting the budget. We will be doing that at a meeting in June prior to the beginning of the new fiscal year on July the 1st. Ms. Cabell, many thanks and much appreciation to you and your staff for assembling a full and complete and comprehensive budget proposal, and the city manager's office as well. We appreciate your participation, and the floor is yours.
Elizabeth Cabell, I'm the finance director, and I'm here with Emily Burton, our budget manager, as well as all of the department heads to present our proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. And which will include a presentation on our general fund, our operating general fund, our CIP, our capital investment program, and our enterprise funds. What you see on the screen there, the agenda here, basically we want to talk specifically about the work of the city of Santa Cruz. As we have gone through this budget process, our goal and our pillars have really been established by you all, by council. And specifically what we focused on this year was investing in our people, our major community projects, and the systems that we serve. And then, as I mentioned, in addition to the general fund, we will specifically look at the capital investment program and our enterprise funds. I do want to mention, before we go on, that we are, the binder that you have, the budget itself, the 600 pages, includes our 200 plus funds. We are going to be presenting on a subset of that, but we're here to answer any questions you may have on any funds that are presented in the budget.
So just to give an overview of our full-service city, we are made up of the following departments, and those all have their own sections within the department summary component of the budget. You have city council, city attorney's office, city manager's office, and city manager's office has two components that we have with its own section in the budget, which is the Office of Economic Development. That was part of a reorganization. It had previously been a department, and it is now reflecting as an office within the city manager's office. And so you see some of those changes reflected in different reports within the budget this year. We have the Community Development Department, formerly Planning and Community Development, Finance, Fire, Human Resources, IT, Library, Parks and Rec, Police, Public Works, and Water. And just so that people can kind of get a sense of what it is that the city does and how the city impacts their life, we wanted to kind of walk through what someone's life might be if they were to get up in the morning in the city of Santa Cruz. So just following someone from getting up and getting ready. Maybe they maybe they have a child and they walk that child to school, then they go pick up coffee before they travel to work. Well, how many times might they interact with the various services of the city? Well, when you get up and you turn on your faucet and you take a shower, all of those are showing our reliable water sources, and so that's your interplay with our water department. When you flush the toilet, that's you interfacing with our wastewater division of our Public Works Department. When you use your blow dryer to dry your hair, you were able to do that safely because of building code and electrical code that the Community Development Department oversees and inspects in different departments or in different buildings within the city. So let's say you are on the west side, you walk your child to school and you walk through a park, you cross the street, and a crossing guard helps you do that safely, and then you drop your child off. Well, the Parks and Rec Department helps maintain that park that you walked through. The police department helped coordinate those temporary workers who are working as crossing guards. And even the fire department is making sure that you have a building capacity, and the fire marshal's making sure that the whole school doesn't fit into one classroom. And then you head home and you head off to head off to work, and you might grab a cup of coffee downtown. Well, on the way there, you might be passing by the beautiful murals that are on the faces of our city buildings. And that's part of the work of the Public Art Division of the Economic Development, the Office of Economic Development within the City Manager's Office. You'll see the various development projects that the Community Development Department is inspecting and that the Office of Economic Development helped ensure and pave the path for. And then you also might park at a parking meter or use one of the parking lots that are maintained by the parking division of the Public Works Department. And then on your way to work, let's say you work in the harbor, you would be every stoplight that you stop at, and you might cross the Murray Street Bridge. All of those projects, all of that traffic control is maintained by the Traffic Engineering Division of the Public Works Department. And all of that work is able to happen because of our internal service department. So people were paid, and vendors who are performing the work on our projects, for example, were able to get paid because of our finance department. All of the employees that maintain all of those services were hired and onboarded, and their development was continued through the work of our Human Resources Department. And all of those things were done safely and securely over the internet because the cyber safety was secured through our IT department. So Just in that morning through 9:30 a.m., those are all the ways that our form of government, our local city was able to increase the quality of your life. And the local city government is really the one level of government that has the greatest impact on your quality of life. And so I think you can really see that just in kind of this one example of one resident's morning.
I'm just going to say, I had the great privilege for 12 years of teaching at my alma mater in the graduate program of public administration at San Jose State, taught public agency budgeting. And the first assignment every week was, when you show up at class next week, I want you to have a list of every government service, local, state, and federal, that you use or could have used that you noticed during the week. And it was enlightening. These were folks who were, getting their masters in public administration and so on and so on. They were shocked when they really paused and thought about it, about this park, that street, this police thing, the FAA when they went by the airport or whatever it was. I really like that you did that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So in continuing and to look at our general fund, we want to just mention and emphasize that the direction and what we do with the budget, this is a year-long process. We're culminating today, and then when we do adopt in June, but it really happens at every single council meeting, every time we get together with city leadership, when we meet periodically, almost every other week, we meet with our budget leads. So it is a process that is year-round and is really direction coming from all of you every time that we get together. And again, the focus this year in 27 has really been invest in our people, invest in our major community projects, and then invest in systems that serve our residents. So to dive in a little bit in the numbers, for the general fund, we are presenting and proposing a balanced budget for fiscal year 27 of $170 million. Over the last 3 years, and then including our estimates for fiscal year 27, estimates for fiscal year 26, we're very pleased to say that we have brought in a balanced budget with our expenditures within 0.5% of our revenues. So that is always our goal, to do even better, but that bring in a balanced budget there, we're basically, the money that we're bringing in through our tax revenues and other things is exactly what we're spending. So starting with revenue, this is always the place that we start when looking at our budget. What are we going to be able to bring in for our general fund revenues so that we can then look at what are we going to spend that on? So as you can see, the bulk of what we bring in is from taxes. And this is 67% of our general fund revenue. And this is very consistent year over year. This includes property tax, sales tax, transient occupancy tax, all of the taxes that we have that's made up that 67% there. The next largest piece of revenue that we have is our charges for services. And this includes everything from classes, golf course fees, planning and permits, all kinds of different fees that we have. It also includes internal service charges, so charges that internal departments pay for our HR, our finance, and our information technology. So that is all included as well in that 24% of charges for services. The other general fund revenue that we have is grants, is made up of grants, license and permits, some fines and forfeits, so much smaller things. Mainly it is taxes and our charges for services. So a little bit more diving into the numbers for our tax revenue in particular. Very consistent, our most consistent source of revenue is our property tax, very consistently about 4% a year that we that increases. You can see that is illustrated over the 6 bar charts there. And sales tax has also been fairly consistent. We had a jump in 22 after the pandemic, sort of leveled out a little bit and self-corrected in 23 and 24. 25, you can see is when Measure L went into effect, our latest sales tax measure. So you see that increasing from 25 through 27. We do expect sales tax to be no huge jumps, hopefully, basically holding steady depending on what happens in the economy. But we do expect at least a small moderate increase in 27. For franchise and utility user tax, that is another source of revenue for us that is based on our rates. So that revenue also continues to increase depending on what our utility rates are. And then the last group of bars over there is our kind of all of our tourism-related taxes, which is transient occupancy tax, parking lot admissions tax, all of those taxes, which again have shown slow and steady increases. We did have a jump in 26 and continued in 27 with La Bahia coming online. So in looking at revenues, we decided this year to look at it in a basic SWOT analysis to sort of see, okay, what are things looking like in the future? What are we expecting? How do we think things are going to look in 27 and moving forward? So we have a lot of things, a lot of strong things to be, that make up our, this analysis. Things like our increase in taxes. We've got our transient occupancy taxes overall have increased. We've also had a pension trust that we've been holding and investing in over the last about 10 years. So we are very happy to be able to take advantage of those investment returns. We do see that some opportunities that we have are to expand our utility user tax, look at how we're very excited, hopefully, to use the money that we've collected on through our sugar sweetened beverage tax as we complete litigation on that. Things that we're kind of looking out for, general tax fatigue. There are a lot of taxes that are happening, not just, the city, but we've got the county, the state, and so on. So just being aware of that. And then also as upward pressure on prices increases, that's something else that we just want to be aware of, especially in looking at things like sales tax and those sort of taxes just to be aware that may result in an increase or at least stabilizing of taxes. There is also as a thread, part of that is just economic volatility in general. So again, what is going to happen in the future? We can't predict that. So again, ultra conservative in what we're projecting. And then just in general, we're always on the lookout for whatever's going to come on the ballot in November. So we really want to be aware that kind of looking again, not just what's happening in the city, but in the state and nationwide to see if that may have any impact on revenues coming into our city. So then once we've kind of looked at what we expect on the revenue side of the world, now we look at the expenditures. And we have a couple of different ways to look at this. But for fiscal year 27, as I mentioned, we've got the $170 million budget that we're presenting. About 59% of that is personnel services. So that is our largest piece. Again, and recognizing our investment in our people is the most important thing that we have. So we have done that strategically in fiscal year 27. The other side of that, or a big other chunk of that pie, is our supplies and services, which also represents external services that we provide, as well as the internal services that I mentioned. So we see that both on the revenue and the expenditure side. Looking at it by department, the same $170 million is a little more spread out here. You can see that the largest portion of our budget goes to our public safety departments. Both police and fire, the ones down at the bottom there, account for about 43% of our expenditure budget. And that's followed by our Parks and Rec and City Manager departments, which each are about 12.5% to 13%. And keeping in mind the City Manager pie does include the Office of Economic Development and our Homelessness Response Team. But you can see spread out through there, we've got IT, Finance, Human Resources, City Attorney, Library, and Public Works, and Community Development. All these wonderful services that we have for the price of a cup of coffee. So we have kind of looking and breaking things down in a different way. Emily talked about this a little bit, like a day in the life, but looking overall at the services that we provide. So the maintenance of our parks, the maintenance of beaches, streets, sidewalks, trash and recycling provided by our community services and sustainable infrastructure. We've got affordable housing development, public safety, city governance, debt. All of those things together add up to about $7.43 per citizen per day. So again, just circling back to one of our major investments, which is our people. And it's helpful, I think, to look historically at the money that we have put in and we've budgeted and expended for our people over the last 5 years. 6 years. So from fiscal year 22 through fiscal year 27, the proposed budget, there's a 34% increase in the salaries. And this includes everything from new positions, COLA increases, merit increases, everything that's related to the dollars that the compensation that we are paying our employees. The other part of that to look at that is equally important is our benefits. Our benefits have increased our costs for the city 72% in that same time frame. So this represents us absorbing a lot of the, especially medical costs have increased significantly, and we have not passed that increase on to our employees. So that's accounted for a lot of that 72%. But our goal really has been to provide competitive compensation, our goal being to attract and retain a high quality workforce, and that is what's resulting in these year-over-year funding commitments.
And while these are year-over-year funding commitments and they do take up a sizable portion of the budget, they are important commitments and important investments that we take on as a city. These are just a sampling of the smiling faces that residents might interact with throughout the city as our city employees work. But our city employees are also our neighbors, they're our residents. So not only are we investing in our workforce, but we're also investing in our community in that way as well. So switching over to the investment that we are making this fiscal year in our systems, we really see over the years that the other components of our budget, the services, supplies, materials, capital outlay, the other major portion of our budget has stayed relatively stable. And the reason why, or because we are investing so much in our people, that limits our ability to expand our commitments in these other components of our budget. But the reason that we do see an increase, particularly from fiscal year 2025's actuals to the 2027 budget, are due to a few things. First, we, as a city, took in for the general fund increases to existing contracts. We were able to ask departments in decision packages to submit any inflationary increases that they were going to see on their existing contracts, and the general fund covered 90% of those. The general fund also, it covers a great increase, about $1 million between 2025 and our estimated 2027 in insurance costs and in our insurance tools. And so those rising factors we were able to cover with the general fund, but those are kind of what's pushing this number up to the degree that it is increasing. We also are increasing our commitments and our investment in our enterprise resource program. And so I was just going to touch on that a little bit here. So our entire financial, human resources, and data systems are going to be transitioning. There's a pretty large citywide effort right now in implementing this new system. And so we will be going from doing things like emailing PDFs for signature and trying to hope that PDF doesn't get lost through email, to an internal system that has workflow and has dashboard notifications to the next approver, and people can track where their item is in that approval queue. On the finance side, we're really excited that instead of having to match individual financial activity with our bank system or our bank statement, we'll have an AI tool built into our product that will do those matching, suggest those matching, and our city staff will verify those matches. So greatly reducing time there. Employees right now use multiple systems to submit their time card, look at their paychecks, and follow up on their personnel data. Gathering financial data requires going to multiple places, and this will become a one-stop shop for employees. And what you see there at the top is the progress that the city is currently underway on. We've had about 1 week where We've gone into a testing system. We have 3,000 tests that we are doing to make sure that the configuration of this new system is correct and that the system's doing what we designed it to do. And so we're kind of midway through that process. But with that comes an increase in cost. So we currently spend about $471,000 citywide on our current systems, and then that will transition to about $866,000 on an annual basis for those developed and modernized tools. And then transitioning to talk about our major community projects. I think it's safe to say that residents throughout the city are experiencing or are able to see the future effects that our major city community projects will have for their lives. In the 2027 budget, there is 69, so just about $70 million of new budget to impact and to move forward our various projects. A big piece of that is the water department, and then we have the city manager's department, mainly the economic development component of the city manager's office, overseeing about $19 million of projects, and Public Works making up another piece. And so we'll be hearing from the Public Works Department in a moment to get some specifics on those projects, but to just kind of talk about the financials and overarching sense of these. Fiscal year 2021 was a good representation of that year and the 10 years prior. We were spending about $6.5 million on capital expenditures around that time. And so we can see just how much we've increased our spending on community projects since 2021. So that red line is kind of that average for the 10 years prior. And, we're exceeding that by 500% estimated in 2026. And we spent more in 2025 than 2026. So lots of spend. But you may remember that in the last few years, we've come to you and said we had minimal funding from the general fund available to allow to spend on capital improvement projects. So what this chart helps illustrate is the various funding sources that are helping to cover all of those projects. So we have about 25% of our general fund CIP coming from grants, and the general fund is only taking on about 9% of the total revenues that are coming in for our CIP. So the departments are being very being very aggressive, trying to find grants and really looking for external funding sources to be able to make this important work move forward. And one even component of that is they're taking a look at their current slate of projects and seeing which projects are kind of most important and which ones leverage the most benefit in the next year, and are even reprogramming funds so that they are going to projects that can happen, can be executed in the next fiscal year or in the next few fiscal years. And so this slide just kind of shows you that we had 6 projects, and those are being reprogrammed into 4 projects that will be moving forward in fiscal year 2027. All right, and to give us that sense of specific CIP projects, we are going to have Director Nathan Nguyen share with us.
Mr. Nguyen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members, council, members of the public. Nathan Nguyen, Director of Public Works. I'm here to present our general fund CIP. I won't go through all the projects that are in our general fund CIP, but we'll touch on a number of projects that were brought up earlier. And then we'll dive into some more details with regards to our enterprise funds following this general fund CIP update. So this is a map just showing the number of projects by district. Again, we'll go into a little bit more detail with regards to the project highlights. Next slide. This slide breaks up the number of projects, again, by districts, but shows the percentage of where they're landing. This doesn't necessarily is inclusive of the amount of spend that's happening in each district, but is more of a quantity of the projects that are happening. You can see in District 4, there is a significant number of projects, as you might guess, in the downtown area as well as in the wharf. And so, again, there's a number of projects that I'll get to in a minute. But in addition to the general fund CIP, that is just one portion that supports the implementation of these projects. To the right on the slide here, we have roughly 20 different funding sources that are also contributing to the development or implementation of our capital investment program. Some of these projects that we'll talk about to you go into the different pillars that we have within the 5-year strategic plan. As our finance director, Elizabeth, mentioned earlier about our fiscal sustainability, about having that balanced budget. We utilize these other funding sources to help create that balanced budget on the general fund side. Next slide. First up, we'll highlight a couple projects within our public safety team. First, with regards to our fire department, we've allocated roughly $600,000 to lease payments for 2 fire engines. These fire engines were actually ordered back in 2024 and 2025, understanding that those engines need about a 2 to 3 year time frame in order to construct them. And so we've actually made some additional early lease payments, and we're going to continue to do that with the first engine arriving, replacement engine arriving in 2029. Those replacements for those engines are based on the National Fire Protection Association schedule, so we're maintaining our equipment on that front. And then additionally, in fire, we'll be looking at some facility improvements at fire stations 2, 3, and 5 in fiscal 27. Moving over to our police department, in PD, we'll be looking at expanding the writing room, as well as providing some additional space for sergeant library and sergeant office. And these funds actually come out of the police impact fund, so Fund 215. So it is not necessarily a general fund, but it is another fund that's helping support, that sits in the general fund CIP. Next slide. Next, we'll talk about Parks and Rec. There are a number of projects that are happening in Parks and Rec. All these projects that you see before you are actually a part of the Parks Master Plan, 2030 Master Plan effort. First, we'll go with the wharf resilience projects. Those projects are underway. Roughly, we're looking at a $7 to $10 million investment into the wharf. The projects are largely funded by a Coastal Conservancy grant. I think it's roughly $7 million, as well as a federal earmark through Congressman Pernetta's office, so much appreciated on that. The projects include restoring and relocating some of the parking, completing the wharf interpretive plan, completing engineering design, permitting for several wharf master plan projects, including the East Promenade, end of wharf, and new boat landings. And so as we note right there that this project was going to continue to move forward in fiscal 27, these are projects that will also continue into 28 and then into 29. Next, we have the Jesse Street Marsh project. That project is largely funded with a NOAA grant. There are additional funding sources that are also supporting that project. That project is currently under design. That includes some natural restoration, improvement to recreational activities in the in the San Lorenzo Riverlands, as well as improving some flood control management. So expect to see some additional work getting going in fiscal 27. Down to the left is our Harvey West ball fields. That project is programmed for roughly $400,000. That is really just to complete the design, complete the plans and designs for those ball fields. So that'll be happening again, design phase first, and then in subsequent years, most likely in fiscal 28, that we'll start looking at construction on that front. And that focuses on ball fields 5 and 6. Last project to highlight within within Parks and Recreation is our Ocean View Park Improvement Project. We were able to set aside a small sum there to make some improvements to the playground, as well as to enhance the park overlook. Next slide. Okay, moving on to economic development. There are some large sizable projects that are happening in our downtown core. Most notably is the downtown library. parking garage and affordable housing project, which began construction in 2025. That project is being done in 2 phases. Again, the first phase is under construction today, while the second phase is expected to be complete sometime in 2028. Let's see, economic development is budgeting roughly $17 million in fiscal 27 for this phase 2 work. In addition, we have the Behavioral Health Continuum Infrastructure Project, also known as our Navigation Center on Coral Street. So this is a city-owned site that we acquired in 2022, and it was always planned for a redevelopment of a 50-bed residential addiction treatment facility. It is supported by a $30 million state grant from the Department of Health and Services. This residential treatment facility is aimed at supporting adults with substance abuse disorders and will provide around-the-clock recovery-focused care for some of the region's most vulnerable residents. Okay, next slide. Okay, on to Public Works. We have a number of projects that are underway. Of course, the largest one is the Murray Street Bridge project. That project is through the first phase of construction. In fiscal 27, we'll have a second full bridge closure coming up next month. And that is so that we can continue to relocate the county sewer force main onto the bridge, as well as complete the in-water work on the south side of the bridge. Construction remains on schedule and on budget, and we are looking at ways to try to advance the completion date today. Next up, we have the West Cliff Drive projects. While a majority of the projects were completed on the 900 and 1000 blocks due to the recent damage events, we do have a number of projects out there still seeking reimbursements, and so we have to continually work through getting those reimbursements, as well as converting some of our emergency permits over to standard permits with our regulatory agencies. In addition to those projects, we have work continues with regards to our West Cliff roadway realignment across from Lighthouse Field State Park. So that project is in design and will continue to move forward. And we also move forward with our Lighthouse Point study, where we've gotten in contract with ESA and are moving forward with that scope of work over the next 6 to 12 months. To the right, top right, we have our Riverwalk lighting project. That's roughly about $1.5 million. That project is funded largely from a ASIC grant. That's a Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities grant. That has some strict deadlines. Those funds need to be expended by 2027. That project is in design now, but we expect to have it complete before or sometime in summer of 27. Paving projects. As part of our annual paving program, what was been great to see this year in this year's budget is the allocation of roughly $500,000 towards our paving program through Measure H, General Fund. The focus of some of those funds, in addition to utilizing the general fund, I should say, is that we also have gas tax, Measure D, and grant funds, oftentimes through the RTC Consolidated Block Program. But in fiscal 27, the focus of our paving efforts are going to be on our high volume streets, such as Front Street, Laurel Street, Water Street, and Bay Street. All of these projects will include multimodal improvements and have seen a lot of damages throughout the years due to the heavy amount of construction that we see in the downtown core, as well as through other parts of our city. Lastly, the downtown development projects that are ongoing, and roughly have $12 million worth of projects that are happening in this area. We mentioned one a little bit earlier with the library mixed-use project, but we also have the relocation and standing up of the new metro station on Front Street, and then the rehab of Front Street as well, as I mentioned with the paving just a minute ago. In addition to all of those efforts, we also have improvements to our paseos in the downtown core, advancing some of the paseos such as the Maple Street Paseo that will lead up to the new Riverwalk, or up to the existing Riverwalk. And all these projects include roadway and drainage improvements as well. Next slide. Last slide here on our general fund CIP is a focus on traffic safety. This slide has roughly 20 projects that are currently underway. It's important to note that these projects are really a part of previous council direction to improve our roadway safety and provide transportation options that align with Vision Zero. We're roughly looking at a $29 million program of these projects for fiscal 27 that have, again, a number of strict deadlines that we have to make sure that we're adhering to so we're not losing those funds. And so staffing capacity is something that is definitely continues to be a challenge that we continue to work through. Of these projects, about 99% of them are funded by federal and state grants or private development, or various funds like TIF, gas tax, TDA, or Measure D. And so so roughly only 1% is left there that oftentimes we use our local match with our staff time to implement these projects. But another thing that we want to make sure that is noted is that the lack of general fund in these projects is not a reflection of our commitment to traffic safety. It really is rather a highlight of the success that we've had in utilizing these other funds to leverage these grants and be successful at being awarded and implementing them. And so just want to give kudos to the team with regards to the number of grants we've been able to get over the years. Next up, I'm going to dive into enterprise funds. Next slide. We'll first start with the water department, and then we'll go through the 4 enterprise funds that is overseen by Public Works, and we'll close out the presentation with some question and answers.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. Heidi Lickenbach, your Water Director. I'm very pleased to be able to spend just a few moments with you talking about what we do. Director Nguyen talked about going through all the projects, and I wish we had time to do that because the city's doing some really great work. I'm just going to spend maybe 5 minutes, 10 slides, just kind of humming across the surface for you. I did want to talk about our mission and priorities. I think it's really important to make sure that the water department is aligned with the work that the city council and the city wants to achieve in general. Investing in our people and systems, water supply reliability, because of course that drives most of what we do in the water department. And then we'll dive into the numbers, fiscal 27 revenue and operation budget, and then investing in projects and our capital budget request. So what is our mission? About a year ago or so, the department sat down, as we do from time to time, to revisit a mission that hasn't changed a lot since, for the last 2 decades since I've been here, but a lot has changed in our community. The community has changed, staff has changed, and resources have changed. We're approaching every project now with a lot more intention to make sure that our resources, both the human power and the financial power, is aligned with where we need to do our work. So our 3 priorities, water system reliability is pretty broad. Investing in water supply, adapting to climate change, investing in aging infrastructure, and maintaining our natural resources, which, as we know, the water system extends well beyond the city limits. So that's a huge focus of our attention. Financial security, to make sure that we can do that on the project basis, but also operationally with our people. And then organizational health was our 3rd priority. And I wouldn't say that these are all necessarily in order, because in order to accomplish the top 2, you really need to have strong organizational health. And when we talk about that, we mean it not only from the sense of staff and the employees, but how are we interacting with our community and our customers is also top of mind when we think about that priority. Would you keep going? Because this is the old slide deck. One more? Keep going? This is going to be very out of order. Christina, do you have any thought on this matter? Would you scroll through several of them just to see where we are? I think 2 slide decks were merged.
So while you're getting that in order, I'm going to just do a couple of procedural things here. If anyone here is, or watching, interested in the Xingu item, it is in consultation with the city clerk. This will be continued to the meeting of June the 9th. So if you are here on that issue, or you're watching and you may want to come here on this issue, June 9th will be your day to do that. Let me do one other piece. The other piece is earlier in this council meeting, I asked that item 14 be continued to later in our agenda. We will be taking that up today, but it will be later. Also, an alert, what we will do is we will go here to 1:30 and then we will take a 15-minute break for everyone. Please proceed.
I'm going to go off of my slide deck because this is not the correct slide deck, but I will animate as much as possible to make sure that we are conveying what we want to convey. First thing we focus on is investing in our people. Thank you. Classification and compensation studies, as were mentioned earlier. We're a very different organization and the work that we do is very different. And so these two pieces are extremely important to make sure that we have the workforce to accomplish the work today. As we know, the MOU negotiations and salary and benefit increases. We have a pretty robust onboarding program within the department. It's not just for new employees, but for existing employees because things change so quickly. We have in the past invited the community, council members, our water commissioners to join us on that, and that's been really successful to make sure we all understand what we're all grappling with. And we have a variety of all-hands meetings throughout the year. The one picture on here that is not of city staff is the one focused right in the middle on the top, and that's a picture from our Trades Day. The city and the water department have sponsored 2 now, Trades Day for high school kids, and then the Skilled Job Trade Fair for adults. Very successful. And while the focus can bring jobs to people, the objective when this started in the water department was to make sure that we have a trained workforce ready to feed into our positions because they are very challenging to attract sometimes. So making sure high school kids and young people are ready and prepared to come to work for the city and the water department. Next slide, please. How do we invest in our systems and our customers? I have just 2 examples here for you today. One of them you heard about previously, which is Spry Point, or investing in our utility billing systems. What I'm showing here is our customer service, one of our customer service staff. And just as a reminder, the water department does customer service and billing for all 3 utilities, refuse, wastewater, and water. And bringing a modern software package, not only to staff, but to the community and customers is going to be very beneficial. I think as we all know, we go to some websites and we try to interact in a very efficient way, and it's not. But these systems that your team in IT and water and public works across the board will really help not only the water department staff in making their work more efficient, but also our customers. So they're gonna have hopefully one-stop shopping and get all of their work done with the city and questions answered. So we're really excited about that going live in October. The next one you've heard about first last year is the Utility Customer Assistance Program, and I just wanted to put this in front of us because it has been a success thus far. We have 2 elements of it. We have the single family, which we did speak to you last year about, and then the multifamily on the right-hand side, which we just launched in March. I wanted to give you a sense of what that program's looking like, but we won't know until probably this time next year. The blue bar, or purple bar at the top shows, because again, we serve outside the city limits to approximately 41st Avenue. So just giving you a sense of, for that average utility bill, what that UCAP or billing opportunity is giving for customers, and it's 25%. The statistics are not too surprising in terms of who's applying for and qualifying for, but they're there for information. We are noticing that the more we reach out to people, the more our participants increase, and so we are working on ways to reach out to as many people as we can. But really exciting program. So I want to shift now to what drives the projects that we do, and this is the busiest slide that I will put in front of you today. But I think it's important because it kind of describes 4 key ways that the water department thinks about our work. Across the bottom is years from the 1950s. And the 4 things I want to point out, the blue bars on the bottom, that's rainfall. And the city relies entirely on rainfall for water supply. And you can see the big jumps and dips in that rainfall amount, which means that predictability and reliability around water supply is not there. The other piece to that is rainfall and predictable meeting demands is tied to revenues. Because as was mentioned earlier, the water department is entirely rate funded. And so the unpredictability related to water supply relates to how much we can serve and relates to revenue variability. So adds a little bit of unpredictability in the work that we do. The green bar at the top is our population. Now this is service area wide, it's not just city, which is important because the city does not have 95,000 people, but our service area does. And you'll certainly notice that the increase is significant. From about the 1970s till today, it's about tripled. So our population in our service area has tripled in the last 40 or 50 years. And the red dots, that's our demand. And you'll see that our demand has peaked around 1999-ish and has done nothing but decline ever since. So all of the population increasing that we're realizing is being offset by the good work that our customers are doing in their homes, in their houses, and demand continues to drop. And so again, we have a rising population, a drop in demand because we're a very conservation-minded community, very variable water supply that we need to build some reliability around. So the next slides, I'm going to focus on what we're doing to address, what we've done and are doing to address supply reliability and aging infrastructure and gaining more overall robustness to the water system. So first, revenues in the operating budget predicted for 27 based on our demands, our sales is $61 million. And again, we are entirely rate funded, and I say entirely, it says 98%. We do try to, we do apply for and hope for receiving grants and have a lot of, we're anticipating successes with some of the Prop 4 money, but that's all we can rely on currently is funding from rates and fees. Our operating budget for 2027 is $57 million, a 7% increase from last year. And that's having to do with the 3 bullets at the bottom, the implementation of the MOU, electricity costs, which are significant and we are trying to offset, and debt service of $10 million. I skipped over our FTEs. We're at 127 currently. It's the status quo from last year. And we do carry an 8% vacancy rate, which to the comments made in the prior item is pretty common and not of concern as we take vacant positions and really right-size them for the work that we're doing. Next slide. This is the water department's version, if you will, of the city's district map. I think I will make an improvement and attempt to get your districts on there as well. But as you know, we serve outside of the city limits, and we certainly have a lot of, and the majority of, our infrastructure out in the county. So the green projects are highlighting those that have been completed. The yellow ones are those that are active, and then the blue ones are those that are going into construction between 2027 and 2032. So these are the ones that have been completed. We've invested almost $300 million thus far. And you can see the list of projects there. The largest, if you've had a chance to get up to the dam, was the Newell Creek Dam Inlet Outlet Project. Laguna Creek diversion up the coast. We did a system-wide meter replacement. What you'll likely see in your districts is water main replacement projects, $13 million to date, and we're increasing these funds that we invest in that going forward. Coast Pump Station, we're replacing all of the pump stations, or all of the tanks, I should say, along the university system, and then the Graham Hill Water Treatment Plant, pieces of it, because maybe on the next slide I show, this one, yeah. So this is the fiscal 27 CIP budget request, which the big project there, of course, on the left-hand side of the screen is the facility improvement project. That has a start date of January of 2027 and a completion of 2032. The most significant project in a forward-looking way. Obviously, water supply augmentation, and then ongoing work replacing pipelines in Graham Hill Road. Next slide. And this is the final capital project slide looking for the 5 years. And you'll see the big expenses are being invested in water treatment reliability. The next one is water supply reliability. Actually, the next two, Belts Water Treatment Plant as well. And then the remainder of the system investment. And then in closing, the Water Department's budget reflects an ongoing commitment to investing in our people, our systems, and our projects. Keeping top of mind that resources are not what they used to be, and they don't go quite as far. So being very mindful of the mission and vision of not only the department, but the city.
Thank you for your good work. Thank you. By way of another just housekeeping effort, what we'll do is we're going to go through all of this presentation. Then what we're going to do is the council is going to have the opportunity to drill in on any particular department or function or activity that we're involved in. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I just have a few more slides to close out our presentation for the day. With regards to Public Works Enterprise Funds, I'll go over our number. We have 4 of them within Public Works, and we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive into each. Next slide. This first slide really indicates where we're at with regards to these 4 different enterprise funds. You might notice that the expenses on all the different funds are currently outpacing our revenues. This is really a reflection, though, because this includes our operating and our capital investments within these divisions. It's important to note, and I'll dive a little bit more detail about just our aging infrastructure that we have throughout the city, and that we are making these significant investments both in wastewater, refuse, and parking, stormwater, et cetera. And so that really is just kind of the highlight or beginning of this presentation. So we'll dive a little bit more in on the next slide. Investing in our people. Within Public Works and our enterprise funds, we have roughly 200 staff within Public Works. You can see the breakdown there between the different divisions. I'm happy to say that we do have a fairly low vacancy rate. There are a low number of staff, longstanding staff members who have been here for multiple decades, though, that we'll talk a little bit more in detail that we're working on with regards to succession planning. But as been noted, both in the general fund and the previous director, about the MOU, the different improvements, strides we've made with regards to investing in our people. And so that's, again, reflected here. Next slide. We'll first start off with our wastewater enterprise fund. So as I kind of mentioned a minute ago about working on succession planning, we do have a number of high-level staff and medium-tier supervisors too that are also retiring that we're working on making sure that we have a plan in place to support this infrastructure, our operations going forward. We have a large headworks project underway. It's about $20 million. And since it's at the wastewater treatment facility, oftentimes it's not in the public eye, but it is a project that is currently under construction. We hope to complete it by the end of this year, possibly into 28 or into 27. Some of the efforts that were also underway, we have some video inspections that we're doing for our collection mains. That's a good effort for us to understand where we're at and be able to prioritize repairs in the future. We've also embarking upon our largest infrastructure project within Public Works, which is Project WEIR. It's our wastewater electrical efficiency resiliency project. That project, we are proceeding with a progressive design build procurement process. So it's been unique, again, novel for us within Public Works. We're working on securing funding for that project. We applied for an SFRA grant, a state revolving fund, I believe. Grant of roughly $50 million to help support that project. We're also working with our county partner as they are a large a contributor to our wastewater treatment facility. Again, we have a regional wastewater treatment facility that we operate. As we continue to work with other partners within the region, we're also working with Pure Water SoCal project and completing some of the improvements we have with regards to our Title 22 system, as well as improving a new source pump for Pure Water SoCal. And then we'll have to continue to ensure that we have environmental compliance, monitoring our outfall, making sure we're in compliance with our NPDES permit. Next slide. Next, I'll move us over to resource recovery. This is actually our largest division within Public Works, again, roughly about 100 FTE. What's nice about this project is that we don't have any debt. That $5.2 million noted at the bottom right is about capital outlay. But that doesn't mean there aren't significant impacts on the horizon. So one of the first projects that we're looking at completing in the fiscal 27 is completing our permanent enclosed flare project to be in compliance with our air board permit. We're going to be embarking upon our landfill master plan development project. And then one of the things that we're really keeping an eye on is the regulatory environment, is with regards to Senate Bill 54, requiring increased acceptance of plastic materials. And so we'll definitely be determining what impacts they will have on our operations, which could be significant. And then lastly, as we look at improving our systems as we're working on doing Project Nate and our utility billing, we'll work on getting hopefully paperless work orders in the future to help us streamline some of this work, both for internal staff, but as well as for customers in the community. Okay, next up we have parking. Parking has roughly 47 FTE within this division. Currently we have a debt service of around $1.7 million. And that's largely due to the support of the parking garage over on Lot 4 in the downtown area, as well as a purchase of a parking headquarters at 123 Locust Street. A part of next year's effort will be to relocate all of the parking staff within that building, so considering kind of a headquarters there. Let's see. The parking revenue bond is roughly $1.6 million a year, with that other $100,000 and so for the 123 Locust building. In fiscal 27, as we continue to complete projects within the downtown core, we will be getting more of the surface lots back online. So we anticipate some increased revenues to have some capacity within the downtown core. The team will also be working on some service reviews. I believe we brought some items before council in the last meeting with regards to full cost recovery when it comes to residential permanent parking program. And then we're also exploring the potential rate increases in the beach and wharf areas that will also require working with the Coastal Commission to get those approved. And that's it. Next slide. Lastly, we'll go over Stormwater Enterprise Fund. While the previous three enterprise funds have their own division, Stormwater does not have its own division. A lot of the work within Stormwater is spread out between different funds. And so the work gets done between our administration team, our operations team, our engineering team. The two funds that really, there's three funds, but two of the major funds that help support our stormwater compliance and O&M efforts are Funds 751 and 752, and those are in the downtown core area. Those haven't been updated since, those funds have been static since the 1990s. We haven't even been able to increase due to inflation for the last 25 or so plus years. So there's considerable efforts that we're discussing and trying to increase those revenues, looking at potentially like a citywide plan in the future that can help support the O&M and capital improvements. When we talk about the O&M side, with regards to stormwater, we're largely focused on, we do have a large focus on the San Lorenzo River. So we have a number of projects that occur there annually, which is our annual vegetation management, our fumigation, and our grouting maintenance. All of those efforts run about $400,000 a year to implement those basic O&M efforts. In addition to the work that we're doing in the San Lorenzo, we have the FEMA accreditation process. So that is get the accreditation so we can maintain lower insurance rates for our community members within the downtown core. We submitted that application in 2023. We're on our fourth or fifth round of comments back with FEMA, but we do hope to get those completed, and so we can maintain those insurance rates for the members of the community. Another project that is in the highlight that is often discussed is our San Lorenzo River Culvert project. That project has a very kind of narrow operating window. Some of the improvements that we're looking at doing there are installing a debris broom at the intake so that it can have a better operating window. A lot of things come down the river, end up getting into that fish intake, and unfortunately stall or make the culvert ineffective. And so because of that, and in addition to the work that we've already been doing, we still have to perform mechanical breaches at the San Lorenzo River. So again, some of this funding that comes out of the Stormwater Enterprise is to support those mechanical breaches and restore some of the sand berms so they have emergency access on Main Beach during our summer season. Last project I wanted to kind of, last couple of projects I just want to make sure I kind of touch on is the pump station number 1 in SoCal pump station project. That project is funded partially from a FEMA BRIC grant for the early design phases. Unfortunately, that FEMA BRIC grant, a lot of that funding got pulled away from the current administration, but we are able to utilize some of those funding sources, roughly about $500,000, is that we think we'll be able to implement this year. That work will help us gain some clarity with regards to our basis of design. So as we engage with developers within that area, we'll have hopefully a better idea of what the requirements will be for those upgrades. And then the last project that we have that's been bid and we'll start construction this summer is our downtown catch basin project. So there are a number of catch basins within the downtown core that will be upgraded to our standard type A catch basin, as well as some additional curb ramps. Notices will be going out to those businesses, letting them know that there'll be some impacts, again, some concrete demo and reconstruction to improve our storm drain efforts. And this is our last slide of the day. We just wanted to be able to highlight some of the enterprise challenges that we see on the horizon. You know, I've mentioned aging infrastructure. You see that we've made significant investments both in the general fund and on the CIP side to help with improving our aging infrastructure. We touched a bit on our succession planning efforts that we have underway within some of the divisions and some of the departments. The funding obligations that we also have. So I mentioned whether it's the ASIC grant or an ATP grant, we have looming deadlines and obligations that we need to continue to meet. And so we have a number of staff that continue to move these projects forward through design and into construction. But it is a challenge with regards to adding more projects onto the list to move forward as we're trying to make sure that we're not losing funds for these other projects that we've already been obligated to implement. And so, again, with a variety of grants and bonds with these strict deadlines, and including some of these payment schedules to get grant reimbursements, it continues to be a focus that we have within the department and really citywide to make sure that we can meet our obligations. I think that is it. And last closing. Yep. Pass back.
So this brings us back to where we started. I just wanted to kind of, since it's been a while, I do want to just sort of mention the whole goal here was to give a broad overview of the work that's going on in the city. Again, our focus is really on investing in our people, projects, and systems. Today, the focus being on our operating general fund, our capital investment program, and our enterprise funds. So now we open it up for any questions or comments.
Well, thank you so much. Excellent presentations. What we will do at this point is we will take a break. And there are some activities people are going to engage in, so I'm going to extend this, that we will come back at 2 o'clock. We'll come back at 2 o'clock. We stand in recess until that time. City Council has returned to session following our afternoon recess for purposes of establishing a quorum. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Councilmember Triguero.
Present.
Bruner.
Present.
Newsom.
Present.
Holder. O'Hara.
Here.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Present.
Mayor Cooley.
Present. Quorum having been established, a couple of housekeeping issues. We had continued item 14 to later in today's agenda from earlier on. In consultation with some members of the public and checking in with our city attorney, city manager, and city clerk, without objection, we will continue this item to the June 9th, is that correct? June 9th meeting. So anybody who is either in chambers or thinking of testifying on that matter, that will be taken up on June the 9th. I've already announced that we will also continue the item 1 to that date. Additional housekeeping measures before we return to budget. I'm wondering if Chief Escalante, if you could assign an officer to go find out who stole Chief Odie's firefighter mustache and get back to us, that would be helpful. Thank you for that. We are back in session and back on the budget. Ms. Cabell, back to you.
So we've finished our presentation, so I turn it back over to you all. If you have questions or comments or anything we can clarify, please let us know. We have all the department heads here, so ready to go.
Very good. Let me start with council members. Everybody will have an opportunity to ask as many questions as you want. We will start with Councilmember Golder.
I do not have questions, but I just want to give a compliment. I was sharing with the city manager that this is my 6th time of sitting through budget hearings, and and it's gotten progressively better over that time. But with this budget, I really want to thank and acknowledge Elizabeth and Emily and your whole team that put this together. I just think it's so digestible, comprehensive, and I appreciate the leadership of the department heads and city staff throughout who put this together in a digestible way. It really shows the collaboration and teamwork that happens in this organization. And it's a real juxtaposition to the first budget hearing I sat in. It was sort of like a parade of departments kind of begging for money, and it was a lot of pressure up here. And so this really seems like people work together to get things done, and I really appreciate that. So I don't have any questions. I asked them in advance. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Times 2. I do have some questions and comments, and some of them I sent to staff ahead of time, but we'll ask here for the purposes of the public. And then some came up for me as we were watching the presentation. Okay, so I'll just go through my list. And okay, some gets in the weeds and some are bigger picture. There is a line item around sidewalk and lieu fee. Wondering if someone can explain what that is and how it's used. That's Mr. Nguyen.
Afternoon, Director Nguyen. Director Nathan Nguyen, Director of Public Works. A sidewalk and lieu fee is a fee that we charge developers, homeowners that can't install a sidewalk as a part of their development project. So we are able to provide essentially an off-ramp to allow these developers, homeowners to pay into the sidewalk and lieu fee in order for them to proceed with their projects. The fund itself is goes up and down with regards to the amounts that we receive, and again, based on the development, but is anywhere between $15,000 to maybe $50,000 a year.
Thank you. Great. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next question, and this is maybe for City Manager Huffaker. City Council has given direction in the past to have support staff. Can you speak to where this is or is reflected in the budget, and where are we at with that position? How's that shaping up?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Vice Mayor. So we have budgeted an FTE and a program analyst position. That position is currently vacant, and we have been reviewing options within the city manager's office staffing structure as a whole in light of the council's recent direction to explore the feasibility of standing up an office of well-being that would really consolidate many of the community well-being programs, from children's fund to youth liaison programs, under one umbrella within the well-being office. So as we make decisions around that, that position may very well be part of that new structure, as well as supporting council staff. So As we make decisions on that, those will ultimately come forward to the council for approval, but the position's currently sitting vacant
Okay, thank you.
and
since-
budgeted, I should say.
It is, but it is in the budget.
Correct.
And it's, you said is a analyst position in the city managers.
That's right.
And it's vacant. And just a note about Office of Wellbeing, this was the agenda item that was brought to the last council meeting. When we get to that part, I would like to see some stronger language to have it be really explicitly reflected that this is a goal to have it at some point in the FY '27 budget. And then also explicitly name it as a goal in the city manager's goals. So when we get there, I'll bring that up. Okay, couple of other questions. It was great to see the indicators and performance measures for each of the departments. You have that each year. I asked earlier how those are developed. Maybe you can share with everyone how they're developed, how we land on those performance measures and indicators.
Yeah, so the performance measures that we have for every department, those are developed in utilizing and reflecting on the council's strategic plan. And those are set by each department. And so those are pretty typical workload indicators and performance measures to be able to compare entity by entity what the success or the progress of the department is.
Okay, great. So strategic plan and council direction. Also, another part of the Office of Wellbeing is to do a community indicators dashboard. And so, again, I'll bring this when we come to it, but a request to make sure that we are intentionally aligning what those measures are by department with the community indicator dashboard so that what we see in here is on the dashboard and what maybe emerges in the dashboard is then also reflected in here. Okay. Couple more questions. Ms. Cabell, you brought up, well, we saw that the TOT tax is increasing, and you brought up a lot of it is La Bahia. Maybe this is for Ms. Lipscomb. Do we know where the Cruz Hotel is at, and is that at all considered in FY '27? Are we thinking about that in FY '27, or are we too far out from the Cruz Hotel or other hotels that'll come online?
We're too far out. We don't have that in the '27 budget because we would be, in order to put it in the budget, it would need to be easily visible and then we know that it's going to happen. So no. But just La Bahia, we did have a lower amount in '26 because it wasn't online for the full year and it was not every room was open. So we did increase that budget as a little bit more in '27 for La Bahia than it was in '26. But that's just because it opened in September.
Do we have a sense of when we think we can see that reflected in the budget?
Well, it's in the '27 budget.
No, I'm sorry, the Cruz Hotel.
Oh, the Cruz Hotel? I think, Bonnie may know better than I do. I think it's 28, 29 would be the soonest that we would see any revenue from there.
I'm happy to just chime in on that real quickly. We've been in ongoing conversations with the development group that's bringing the project forward. And I agree with Elizabeth. We most certainly will not see revenues from that project in FY '27. I think more likely we'd be looking at FY '29 based on their current projected timeline.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, the presentation brought up the state legislation, the Local Taxpayer Protection Act, I think it's called, that may jeopardize Measure C and Q. Maybe this is for Ms. Bronson. Does that need to pass by 2/3 in order to pass, or is it's majority? Feels like that should also pass by 2/3 if they're.
Can you move on to the next question? I'll look at that up for you and get back to you.
Well, and then the follow-up question to that is, and maybe we don't need to think about it right now, but maybe we do. If that passes, what is our plan? Because right now, Measure C and Measure Q is reflected in our budget. So how are we planning ahead? How far back does it go? And how are we planning ahead to address some of these measures that it'll impact?
So whether it passes or not is not going to change the '27 budget. We would still receive the revenue for '27 that we projected. But what happens in the future for years moving forward is when we do the '28 budget, that's when we're going to have to look at it. I believe it does have a 2-year period, sunset period, so we would have some time to sort of figure out what's an alternative, or do we go back out to ballot, or what do we need to do? But it will not impact the 27 budget.
Okay, got it. Okay, just a couple comments. The health and all policies icons and the accomplishments and goals, I love seeing that. It's just sort of a quick way to see how comprehensive or what parts we're focusing at. If it's at all possible, a suggestion to also do that with the CIPs. I know that health and all policies are used as a way to think about how we're gonna prioritize CIPs, but if it fits into those charts, that would be a great visual to incorporate. And then just another note that, we made a commitment to use of AI and intentional use of AI. So seeing that reflected, I've communicated this with the city manager's office as well. And then I was just really excited to see the Children and Youth Bill of Rights reflected in the ways that we want to see it reflected. The fire department and your lifeguard mentorship program, Parks and Rec with your, I think, new youth fellow community garden, and then of course your summer trail, and then the city managers work with the youth liaisons and the Parks and Rec department city liaisons. So I was just really, really excited to see the Children and Youth Bill of Rights come to life in this way in providing opportunities for young people to really be engaged in a meaningful way in what we do at the city. So those are my comments and questions for now. And Ms. Bronson, it's not pertinent to this budget, so I can follow up with you later. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember O'Hara, good afternoon. Welcome from a distance.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I was, it took me a second to get off of my mute. Appreciate the opportunity to provide some comments. I did want to align myself with Councilmember Golder in just expressing appreciation for the manner at which the budget has been presented, not only today, but to council members way ahead of these hearings to ensure that our questions are answered and that we have an opportunity to fully understand all of the intricacies of the budget document. As I've mentioned, and I know Mayor Keeley, you mentioned this often as well, our annual budget really does serve as the identity of this organization. And when you get down to the granular aspects of each line item, it might be confusing even to council members, but especially to the public of what all this information means. And what I do want to express is what I believe this means in particular for the city of Santa Cruz is that we are in an incredible position right now, even compared to other California cities. Big cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco are experiencing significant deficits, structural deficits around pension obligations, tax base with sales tax and that economic base not recovering as fast as these big cities would hope. Other California cities are really significantly dealing with challenges with their budgets, and we are not. And so I do want to, really mention that is because we have spent the last several years really looking at diversifying our revenue sources, and we have an exceptional budget team that is really leading the charge and ensuring that we have a sustainable organization and a really resilient organization. So I do not have any questions, mostly just a lot of praise for our team, for my colleagues who have, leading into this current campaign and election cycle, really looked at how to ensure that our organization can meaningfully move into the future in a sustainable way. So I just wanted to express that appreciation. And once we get further along with deliberations, I might have some additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to associate myself with the comments that my colleagues have made today. I do have a question for Director Gwynn, or just a quick question. I know you had a slide talked about the amount of work that we do for traffic safety and transportation safety, and you talked about how a good bit of that funding, state and federal funding. But I do know in the budget there, we are reinstating a $500,000 annual transfer from the general fund to our roads funds for those type purposes. Just wondering if you could touch on that as well, because I don't remember seeing it in your presentation.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councilmember Newsom. So as a part of this year's budget, we're allocating $500,000 from General Fund Measure H into our paving program. The paving program in fiscal 27 will be focusing on arterial roadways. So in addition to the general fund supporting the paving program, we're looking at utilizing gas tax, Measure D, and I don't believe TDA, but so a couple of other funding sources to help support paving on Laurel Street, Front Street, Water Street, and Bay Street. And so again, these are critical arterial roadways within the community connecting north, south, east, west. And so a lot of these roads are in need of repair. And so that's where we're focusing those funds.
Thank you. And thank you for that. Just wanted to get a little more clarification on that. And when the times come, I'll be asking for a part of that transfer is just exploring prioritizing some of that for transportation safety projects as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I wonder if the council might indulge me to go out of order on a particular item. Mr. Norton, who showed up here early this morning with a couple of other people, wants to testify on exactly this point. So I wonder, without objection, he and I just talked about that there's 3 people here total. They'd each like 2 minutes on this. Without objection, we'll go ahead. Mr. Norton, come on up, and your 2 colleagues, 2 minutes each. Off we will go. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm disappointed and surprised. I'm disappointed about community engagement in general. In the modern era, that's kind of a broad topic. We did start out with 12 people today who showed up here. Well, we had 12 people committed, and then we found out that this was an afternoon budget hearing, and then we were down to 7. Now it's 3. There may still be some people online. But they're here because this was very important to them, and they wanted to be heard about street safety. It's an angle that we don't think about sometimes. Public Works is getting a smaller share of the city budget today than it did 40 years ago. In dollar terms, that gap is roughly $5.6 million from the general fund. The department is trying to fill it by chasing grants. That means safety improvements happen when outside funders decide they should, not when residents need them. If you can't afford a car, then safe buses, bike lanes, sidewalks, and crosswalks are what allow you to get to work, buy groceries, see friends, and participate in community life. My own mother tripped and fell on one of our many broken sidewalks. There's a passage in Matthew 25 where Jesus says, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." That tradition matters to me, and maybe it matters to some of you too. So I hope no one minds if I offer a modern version for Santa Cruz. I needed a safe way to get to work, and you built a protected bike lane for me. I was a child, and you made it safe enough for me to cross the street and get to school on my own. I was elderly or disabled, and you built sidewalks and crossings I could actually use. There's $1.2 million in this budget that could be redirected to quick build safety projects and public works staffing today. It is in your power to act, and I hope you will. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. Welcome. Good afternoon. Hi.
Hi, I'm Ariel Zucker. You've heard from me a couple times over email in the last year, and actually wanted to come here independent of Ken, but I met him like yesterday. He was like, "Come with us." I was like, "Great." Anyway, I'd like to raise the same concern of pedestrian safety. I'm so appreciative of the improvements that have been happening in Santa Cruz. They're awesome, but they are the things that we can get grant funding for, and it's really just not enough. I have a 2-year-old. She's great. I walk her to Discovery West. It's 2 blocks. There is no sidewalk. There's no sidewalk in front of Discovery West. There's no sidewalk between my house and the rail trail. I walk across the street to Garfield Park, there is no sidewalk. It is about 100 meters. I can't go that far. There's a guy in a wheelchair. He's around the corner. Every day comes past my house and he's like, when I see him, he's like, thank you so much for redoing your sidewalk. He says, even though right after my sidewalk, it ends and there's no curb cut. So then he kind of like does some awkward maneuver, like get off and go in headlong into traffic. And like, there's cars coming down all around. I mean, it's just crazy. And none of these sidewalks I'm talking about are on the active transportation plan. There's no budget for them. And I mean, as some of you know, I'm trying to pay for it myself, and it's, a big struggle to even figure out like a meeting with Public Works to do like one little patch of sidewalk. So anyway, I would just really like funding from the general fund for some of these smaller projects that are not sexy and are not ever gonna get grant funding from the state of California or the feds. And the city would just be so much better day to day. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for being here. Good afternoon, welcome. Hello.
My name is Dana Bagshaw. I live car-free in downtown Santa Cruz, south of Laurel Street. I have been supporting this call for safer streets. I was canvassing in my neighborhood and found so many people wanted to talk about it. It's really a big issue for them. But for me personally, I'm a pedestrian. I don't ride a bike anymore. I ride the bus, but you have to walk to get to the bus. And I find that the sidewalks are just, they have booby traps in them. You never know when you're walking along, when you're going to, literally stumble over something. I walk in the streets. It's safer to walk in the streets. I feel much safer. So the one time when I made an exception to that, because I wanted to walk in the shade of the lovely trees down Chestnut Street. And under the trees, they have these bricks around the trees. And the brick stick up like this. And I tripped on one of those, fell flat on my face. I was screaming and yelling. My ribs were killing me. No one came. I was just there. And finally, this guy came along. He was carrying a bag of aluminum cans. And he stopped and helped me up. And he offered to walk me more. And I said, can you just please leave the bag of cans behind? Because I didn't want to be seen holding on to someone walking down to the street. I mean, it was just, but then that was just nothing compared to what I've experienced, because I went to the hospital and it turned out I had a fissure, a bleed right up here in my, where the two parts of the brain come together. So please, let's take care of our streets, but let's not neglect our sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank all three of you for that. Now let me proceed apace. You were finished, is that correct? Councilmember Brunner, you are up.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And let's see, I just had some comments and let me pull up here. Thank you so much to our two finance teams for kicking off since 2020 when I started on this council, and I will echo similar praise as stated before. We've come a long way for our popular budget and presenting the information in a way that's understandable and that really reflects our strategic plan, our council direction, how we're investing in the community, how we're investing in our systems. You made that so clear. Investing in people, community, and systems, and that has been the reoccurring message of improvement since I started. And reflecting it in the budget is where that work can happen from. And really thankful to all the staff and staff that's sitting here today I think I know everybody here who does amazing work behind the scenes. And so you showing the graph, the little day in the life of a resident, so much of our city budget and services and work is invisible to the everyday people. And so that was simply a just a little highlight. It wasn't even the depth of what happens in a day. And so thank you for presenting it in that way and really breaking down the information that shows that. So the other thing I did want to compliment is the popular budget that we received well in advance from last year, and in addition to our wonderful annual budget binder. And I think what's really important is the terms and how they're laid out, how it's broken down, how much money the city receives of sales tax. You know, we don't receive that full amount, or where it goes, where general fund money, how some funds are restricted, some are, you know, dedicated to certain things. And so it really kind of continues that narrative of how to explain the pot of money that is available for what. Not all of it is available for everything. And I know this is, we've been saying it, but we've gotten to a point where it's now automatic that you're sharing this information in this way, and that's very helpful. So thank you for presenting it in this way. I also just want to thank staff for you know, looking at other cities across the state maybe, but generally just nearby. And it's always interesting to research who's doing what and how does that look like. And it's always interesting to have that little piece of comparison. And I think it was Councilmember O'Hara who mentioned too, like some places are really challenged, and finances are very stressful right now at a time when people are really feeling the cost of living in all aspects. We're hearing gas prices in California, affordable living, you know, finances are front and center. And so how is the city investing and supporting people in that way? And I, you know, appreciate all of the meetings we have up until this point, because to me it's really important, and it may not be reflected in the presentation today, but things like arts and culture and our public event grant funding and investing in tenant support services and all of the things our utility users fund that was brought up earlier. These are also ways the city is investing in people, not internally, but in the community. And thank you for showing that and for ensuring that that's not being taken away. We will continue those services, and that is reflected in the budget. And I really appreciate the work that has gone into this, so thank you.
Councilmember Triguero.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to align myself with my colleagues' comments. It's very true that what we've seen today in our presentation is that we are all fortunate to live in a city that is so well run and stewarded so well by our department chairs and our finance. So again, I tip my hat to Ms. Cobble and her team for this excellent stewardship of our budget. I am the novice on the crew here, so I'm always blown away. I haven't seen the evolution as Councilmember Golder has. But in my budget meetings with staff, with Emily, we've been able to get into conversations and ask questions. And of course, the city manager has to repeat his answers because I'll ask him more than once because I'll forget what I've already asked. Nonetheless, I also really want to highlight the potential in this budget. The investment we're making in systems, we can't really realize yet. I'm most excited for the systems and software implementations, whether notably in the accounting team, we're using AI in, I think, a very appropriate way, this closed circuit to identify rules for transactions. That means a lot of savings on staff time, on the kind of manual entries that you're already making. And these kinds of improvements in our systems is going to also equally improve the lives of our citizens, right? So the userability on the staff side, the userability on our customers' side, that's all going to equate to happier, healthier systems and cost savings, I believe. So I'm so excited about the improvements and the investments in our system. I also want to echo specifically Shebra Kalantry's comments, the Vice Mayor's comments about the Office of Wellbeing and the grants program that was a direction from last council meeting, and highlight, of course, again, the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Brunner for spearheading that project with me, with staff. And a thank you to Kevin Norton, who was here today on a transportation and sidewalks issue, but he also was crucial and critical to the micro grants in the Office of Wellbeing coming forward. So thank you to Mr. Norton on both those ways that he's seeking to improve our community and highlight issues that many constituents feel strongly about. I think at the core, Mr. Norton believes that connectivity in our community will really improve mental health of our community members. And that's something that my neighborhood leads, that my colleagues on council all intrinsically find valuable. And he's finding multiple ways to bring it forward. And I applaud that. Councilmember Brunner also talked about tenant supports. And I think our efforts there, I'm happy to see that we have year-over-year support around tenant protections and support. I know that's something that Mayor Keeley and I had discussed a lot in this last year, and so I'm really happy that this year that we have that year-over-year support. Lastly, and I may make this a motion, sir, I have a comment on Homeless Garden Project, if I may. We had a council action earlier this year about them. And sir, would it be appropriate for me to share, or should I wait if I'd like to make a motion related to that?
I wonder if what we might do on that is we'll go through one round of questioning, and then we will open up a round of individual directions for reports back and so on before our final day. But if that works for you.
Excellent.
Very good.
And I'll save my last comment for that. And thank you so much for the time. And again, thank you to Ms. Cobble for this excellent process.
Thank you, Council Member. So start with a few questions around our revenue assumptions for a moment and our expenditure assumptions. I don't think it's reaching too far to think that the nation and the world are on the edge of either a moderately serious recession or potentially a depression, depending upon what happens in the Middle East with the Strait of Hormuz and so on, and what's going on. We seem like we're a long way away from it, but we're not. In that regard, when we look at those items on the expenditure side that we know are tied directly, for example, all of our fuel costs and that kind of thing. What kind of assumptions were you making looking out 14 months over time to be able to have your best estimate as to the fuel cost side of things?
So when we started the budget process back in October, we did incorporate at that time a 5% increase in fuel. What we plan to do is as we get through the first half of the year and we go into mid-year, we'll look at that again and reevaluate it. If we need to bring an additional increase at that time, then we will do that.
Let me stay on the same subject and turn over to the revenue side for a moment on that. Because our expense side, I think, is very likely to go up. On the revenue side, it seems like that might also be the case, given that California is not doing one of these goofy things like some of these other states where they're suspending their gas tax or suspending their sales tax on gas, excise, or whatever it might be that they have authority to do. Thank God our state isn't doing that. So I imagine that what happens on the other side of this equation is that as gas is at $4, $5, $6 a gallon, the state and us as a recipient of gas tax and so on, that we will get an increase in revenue, and wondering again what kind of assumptions you're making in that regard.
So I will probably turn to Public Works on that because that's a special revenue fund. It doesn't hit the general fund. So.
Mr. Nguyen, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Mayor. I think I have to follow up with response to gas price increases and how that is going to be attributed to our revenue side. I think we are still anticipating receiving gas tax, but not necessarily a significant increase due to the increases of gas prices that we see today, and how that will reflect through to our budget. But I'm happy to research that and provide an update once we have a better determination of what potential increases might look like.
So the current assumption that you forwarded over to the Department of Finance to put your revenue and expenditure numbers together, you made an assumption of what with regard to gasoline pricing, and what that might generate on the sales tax side, of which we receive a portion?
I believe that we made the assumption similar to what we did on the expenditure side, that roughly 5% increase would be translated through. But again, I'd have to follow up to make sure that that's exactly the assumption we made.
So I do think that I don't know that this needs to be a motion necessarily, but I do think between now and the time we come back in June for final budget actions, that those may or may not move together. Our expenditure in terms of gasoline, and then the revenue we receive from the sales tax side of that, they may or may not move together. And so I think that is of some consequence, not a disaster, but some consequence. So let's take a look at that when we come back. All right, thank you. With regard to our property tax forecasting, I was intrigued by looking at the 4% number on the estimated increase, which is essentially taking the growth in the roll, which is either 2% or whichever is less, right? And you've got 4. And that seems to me to be pretty good in the following regard. We've got a lot coming online. A lot of new housing is coming online and so on. So when they get their final and the tax, the assessor and the tax folks send out their supplemental bills, I imagine with all this construction that is going on, that a fair number of those will come into final and get their supplemental tax bill during the new fiscal year we're entering. So with regard to all of this new development, what assumptions are you making with regard to that 4%? Seem like a conservative number to me, but I'm willing to believe that it's an accurate number too.
well, hopefully it's accurate. It's coming from the county, so we take our estimates directly from the county. The average over the last few years has been about 4%. We did have a jump, I believe it was 24 to 25 when it was like 7%. But as far as the budgeting side of it, we take our direction from what the county estimates, which again is about actually this year it's a little bit less, it's like 3.5%. But we don't add on to that anything since we don't know for sure what's going to happen. So we take our direction from what the county provides us.
By the time we get, thank you, by the time we get to, or this council, I won't be here, but when you get to mid-year budget adjustments in February, my guess is the estimated actuals are going to be different. They're always different. Can't spot it on, to the penny. But I imagine there would be an opportunity at that point to see what that looks like, because you will have gotten two things. Well, one thing in by then. You will have gotten the December property tax payments with some of those new assessments on them. So by the time you get to mid-year budget, you're going to know what the delta, if any, is there, right?
Exactly, yes. So we'll have that December payment, so we'll know.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. As you know, as I've said in 3 previous budget hearings on this matter, I'm proud to be a jealous guardian of the general fund, because when we are, then we as policymakers get some more discretion on what we do with that general fund. So in that regard, I want to thank you and the city administration and others who have been involved in this migration of reducing what I call the net city cost, which is those operations where we could have fee recovery and reduce the contribution made by the general fund to support that activity. And I think that over the last 3 years, I'm very grateful about the migration to 100% fee recovery where appropriate. And as I've said before, I don't think we're going to say it costs you $75 to go swimming at Harvey West Pool. We're going to subsidize that. But there are other activities that we've been doing some pretty good work, I think, over time on that migration. What does this budget reflect with regard to that continued migration to full cost recovery through fees where appropriate?
So we actually are working on a report to bring to you that shows exactly what we've done. I don't know if Vivian may have more exact numbers.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Vivian Pearson, Principal Management Analyst of the Community Development Department. For this fiscal year, we see a reflection, at least we conducted a citywide fee study update. So we did a large section of some of the departments in which the finance department will do a continuation of additional fees that might be analyzed. But for this particular fiscal year, for the Building and Safety Division of the Community Development Department, we see now a 100% cost recovery for those fees. Last fiscal year, it was at 80%. So annually, we're seeing for the past 3 years, the fees now at 100%. And then we also increase our fees by CPI for relevant fees. So that does help capture some of the escalating costs.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. A comment on the Measure C item that was and how it was characterized. I understand that, to make sure that we're on the same page. What you're concerned about, or what the concern here is, that there's a Howard Jarvis taxpayer measure which has gathered the requisite number of signatures to qualify for the ballot. Should it pass, it would prohibit going forward and has some intention to claw back fees or taxes approved with less than a 2/3 vote, if I understand the measure correctly. I want to advise you that I had conversations over the weekend with former Speaker Bob Hertzberg, who is working with the mayor of Los Angeles on trying, and the speaker, to see if what they can do is fashion a solution to this during session before the budget is adopted that would get the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association to stand down and not prosecute that measure. So what I will be doing is coming to the city manager and others, including you, on budget issues, what effect that would have in our discussions to try to be helpful in that regard. Okay? All right. I am good at this point. Let me see if there are any members of the public who are with us who wish to testify on the budget. I will also do that with folks who are online. Anybody with us in council chambers? Do we have anyone online? Okay, we have 3 folks with their hands up online.
I was asking if people get 3 minutes or 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, we do have 3 people, actually.
Okay, we also have 3 people. Yeah, let's go 3 minutes. Okay, good. Thank you. First person online, good afternoon and welcome. Good afternoon.
Hi. Oh, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for listening. I wanted to speak also about public safety, and my name is Nancy Peisel. I'm a financial advisor. I'm happy to be a Santa Cruz resident for at least 2 years. And one of the things that drew me to Santa Cruz was the walkability. And I think that's true of many people. They assess the walkability and bikeability of a town prior to moving there. I appreciate the bike lanes, the trails, the accessibility to downtown, the fact that I don't have to drive my car downtown and pay for parking. I have some concerns about traffic safety. I moved from Monterey, a smaller town, where drivers stop when they see a pedestrian coming up to the crosswalk. And my concerns are that there's a feeling that drivers are just not aware of pedestrians and cyclists. And it's more of a Silicon Valley feeling where they are trying to get through the intersection and sort of are a little bit intimidating in terms of not really allowing pedestrians or cyclists to go through. My other concern is on the bike trails and pathways. There are a lot of electric bikes that, particularly driven by younger teens and kids, that are going very fast, too close to pedestrians and cyclists, and are performing stunts where they're just not really in control of the bike. And I would like to see that addressed either through laws or something. I'm not sure what the solution is to that problem, but I feel very unsafe often with the speed and the fact that these kids are just not in control of electric bikes. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate all of you.
Well, thank you very much. Next person online, good afternoon. Welcome to the City Council meeting.
Yes, hello. Hey, there is doing what is right, doing what is legal, or doing what you think you can get away with, and then there's doing what you do. When I say you, I mean you and the city government, as all too frequently you're just fronting for the government. To that point, I complain once again about the illegal siphoning off of utility bill revenue to pay for public art, but sure can also be for carbon reduction funds or any of the other many utility fund transfers of like ilk. What AI has to say says it better than I. Quote, using water or sewer or refuse funds to pay for public art would generally not be justified as a property-related charge. All those department revenues come primarily from property-related fees charges for service. Under Prop 218 and similar laws elsewhere, these funds are restricted to the cost of providing utility service for operations, maintenance, capital improvements for those systems, or debt service, etc. Using them for unrelated purposes like purchasing art, even public art, would violate the requirement that fee revenue not exceed the cost of service and may not be used for general government purposes. Public art is typically a general benefit expense funded from the general fund, not enterprise utility funds like water, sewer, refuse. Rare and legally very risky exceptions are cities' programs that take a small portion of utility capital project budgets. However, this is usually scrutinized, and such projects still must directly tie back to each utility's cost benefit, end quote. You propose to intermingle enterprise funds into the public art fund, which is itself unrestricted. Not a good move. You do not explain how each transfer is then dedicated legally to each utility property-related cost or any specific projects. It looks like sleight of hand money laundering. The past example of art tiles for the Bethany Curve Culvert never qualified since it is not water department property infrastructure or related to water service in any way. Add to this the fact all water fund monies were taxed by the franchise tax, which requires the franchise water tax be on charges for water delivered. We have a double wrongdoing on the city's part. Such art delivers no water in any sense. Of course, you don't want to pay for art with general tax fund money because you would like to reserve that to pay those fat gravy train increased 34% salaries and 72% increased benefits over 6 years we heard about. You won't do what is right or what is legal, but what you can get away with while covering wrongdoing over with misdirection, false legalese inserted here into the agenda packet to obfuscate the abusing of your authority. You cannot be trusted with the people's monies. Maybe you should hold an art bake sale instead. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Next person online. Good afternoon. Welcome to the City Council meeting.
Good afternoon, Council. Judy Grunstra. I was watching the presentation of the budget and noticed that there was quite a bit of money in Public Works or Parks and Rec for sand traps at the golf course. Now, there must be some kind of powerful golf lobby in the Parks and Rec department because the golf course continues to get a lot of money every year. And I think there are other well-deserved projects. Harvey West Pool, we've been promised for years, that it would reopen. It has reopened, but there's still no Sunday hours as of the call I made last weekend, a Memorial Day weekend, to see if the pool would be open Sunday and Memorial Day. And the answer was no. So it's really a crime that a seaside community like ours does not have public pool operating during the summer on weekends. I called the Simpkins Center and they were operating. So, I suppose you could say, well, why don't you go swim over there? But you want to reduce vehicle miles traveled. So the pool should be open, take a little less money given to the golf course and give it to Harvey West Pool. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Anyone else, Ms. Bush? All right. I want to, Ms. Cabell, let's do one more piece of business, and I apologize. I did not have this, or thought I didn't have it in front of me. I'd like to go to the report that you provided on the day of May 1st, 2026 on the portfolio management report on our pooled money investments. This is what you get for having a mayor that used to be a treasurer. Sorry about this. First of all, fine job being done managing our pooled money investment fund. But I do have a couple of questions about it. One, the duration of the overall portfolio is 776 days. And we've got some of these short averages to maturity that I think make really good sense. I understand why they are. Wondering with the way that the rates are moving right now, especially you would expect bond yields not to be moving in the direction they're moving in given what's going on, but they are. And I wonder if, given where we are on treasuries, what you and our investment consultant think with regard, because let me just say, I don't imagine that things are going to, whatever better means, they're not going to get better for 6 or 7 or 8 months. We're going to be halfway through the fiscal year, is my guess, before we know whatever happens today, tomorrow, or the next day in the Middle East if things stopped today and got 100% better today, there's a run out of a half a year, so I'm imagining. And so if that's the case, I do wonder about what we should or could be doing with regard to treasuries giving the yield on that today and where that's gone in the last 3 weeks.
So we actually I have a meeting tomorrow with our investment consultant to talk exactly about all of this. So I don't have a lot of information now. I will say that that report that you have, which is as of March 31st, does show a lot of money in cash. We have a lot of we tend to run very liquid, especially with all of these projects that we have going on. So that's something else that I've asked her to look at, is sort of a mini cash flow analysis to see where it makes sense and when it makes sense to move money from CAMP or LAIF, which is where those are our two cash funds, into a more longer term investment. So those are all things I'll have answers for a little bit better, but there are things that we're always looking at. I'm always looking at what makes the most sense for us, cash on hand to have at any one time, and then also kind of by fund where things sit.
Right, and the order of investment priorities is always safety, liquidity, and yield. Never chasing yield, right? So in order to chase yield, now that I said never chase yield, rather than chase yield, I think the issue is there something going on that is so markedly different now than what we have been doing for the last several years, where the economy has been moving along. Last time, we have to go back to COVID to find a shock in the system that's anything close to what we're experiencing now and likely to experience over the next several months. So I get the mix now. And I'm not suggesting shorter average yield to maturity. I'm not looking at that. Look at something different, as you can hear. It's really the mix of these, because I know that what you do is you're going to schedule your investments, because you know that 26 times a year you have to make payroll. You know that this thing needs to be paid here and that thing needs to be there. And so you match all the investments for when you need the cash. So that's the second point about safety, liquidity, liquid when you need it, but not just liquid for the purpose of being liquid. That's why we can go longer term on some of these, because we're never in a place where we need $500 million in one day. So we can take some of that and stretch it out longer. So I would appreciate it, again, not trying to chase yield, but instead to say, this is a different environment than it was when this report came out, right? Very different environment. So when you come back, let's revisit this when you come back. Again, I think you're doing quite well on this. I think that our investment advisor that you're working with, do we start that in the year we're in right now? This is the first full lap around the track?
We've had them, well, since you've been mayor, so I think we're in our third year with them, yeah.
I think they're doing fine. So I don't have an issue here. Somehow the investments don't make sense. They make all kinds of sense. I think there's a pretty big issue out here that we might want to see. What does that mean relative to our investments and how we're going to be mixing them? Because I think it's a little different than how we would under what you would call, let's say, normal economic circumstances that ebb and flow. This is a major impact on it. Those are my questions. We've gone out to the public, matters back before the body at this point. I think there are likely to be some requests for some reports back. So let me open the floor to my colleagues if they would wish to do so. Madam Vice Mayor, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do have some additional direction. I sent it to Ms. Bush for this budget, so. All right, so motion to receive the FY27 budget information, and the motion to direct staff to return to council in September 2026 with a staffing plan and funding options for the establishment of the Office of Wellbeing, including any recommended budget adjustments for FY27. direct staff to ensure departmental performance measures align with strategic plan, council directive, and soon-to-be-developed community indicators dashboard to be reflected in each department's budget section, beginning with FY28 budget packet. And then direct staff to amend the Parks and Recreation FY27 goal, which can be found in the budget packet, page 242, to remove the word secure in reference to Children's Fund and sugar sweetened beverage tax funds and replace it with language that reflects the advisory body's independent authority over those allocations. Revised goal to read, work with Children's Fund and SSB TOC to explore allocations of funds towards relevant Parks and Rec programs.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Newsom. Madam Vice Mayor, would you like to open on your motion or speak for yourself?
I'll say it. Well, I think it speaks for itself. I'll just say a few words. Again, I'm really grateful for the budget that's before us. Really, it was so comprehensive, and staff has been so thoughtful about putting council direction in place in these budgets. So there wasn't a whole lot for me to offer because you did a lot of the great work. I did want the Office of Wellbeing to be really explicitly named, so I'm really excited about that. And then the Community Indicators Dashboard is part of that work. Just want to make sure that we are aligning that next year. And then the fourth piece here, again, excited to see new funds coming in with SSB and to invest in our great Parks and Rec. Just want to make sure that we're mindful and careful about how we name that because we do have advisory bodies that will be giving the council recommendations. So that's all for this.
Thank you. Hold just for a second. Madam City Attorney, you're looking.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking a little bit concerned about number 4, and I don't think it was the intent. I'm wondering if you would consider deleting and replace it with language that reflects the advisory body's independent authority over those allocations. Because as you just mentioned, it's really the council that has authority over those allocations and those bodies make recommendations. So I think if you just replace that half a sentence, then that would work well from a legal perspective.
So replace it or just
Sorry, just
take
delete
out?
it.
Yeah, that's
because-
fine.
Yep.
That was sort of my explanation, but the language doesn't work, so.
We clear on that?
So just replace, let's see, tax funds and replace it with.
What item?
Item 4. So the sentence that says direct staff to amend the Parks and Rec FY27 goal to remove the word secure in reference to Children's Fund and sugar sweet beverage tax and replace it with, and then with language, no, just with, replace it with.
You could just say replace it with the following language.
Following language. And then you could delete it all the way up to where there's the quote. Yep. Yeah, thank you for catching that.
Good. Madam City Attorney, we're good?
It's fine, thank you.
Okay. Yep. Good, good, all right. What I think we'll do, unless there's objection, is we will move through the rest of the council and amend your motion with additional friendly amendments rather than go through 10 different motions. You okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
You okay with that? A second, okay. Councilmember Golder, anything you want to do on this? Councilmember O'Hara, if you have any amendments you would like to add to this motion for reports back on or before our next budget hearing, this would be your opportunity to do so.
Yeah, nothing to add, Mayor. Thank you, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so old. Can't do a damn thing. Councilmember Newsom, you're sitting right next to me. You can just shout in my ear.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have 2 additional I'd like to add on. I believe for number 5, if you're ready, I didn't send it over, so would you like me to send it over now? Okay. the Senate. Thank you. So those are my two additional as-friendly amendments.
Let's go through them.
First, direct the city manager and public works director to return to council in August 2026 with options to address safety issues at the Mission Street and Green Street crosswalk, including a flashing light crosswalk beacon, and the Myrtle Street and Taylor Street intersection, along with reach out to the neighbors at Myrtle and Taylor to assess the want for speed bumps. And then next, explore prioritizing the reinstated transfer from the general fund to the roads fund for transportation safety projects.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Agreeable. All right. I'm sorry. Agreeable? Yeah, good. Councilmember Brunner, any items?
Clarify really quick, Mayor, just for is this a friendly amendment or a second motion?
Yes. This
Oh,
is
so you're accepting it?
We're going to
Okay.
just keep going through the base motion, adding friendly amendments.
I said second, but that was incorrect.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Councilmember Brunner, any items? Nothing to add. Councilmember Trio.
Thank you, Mayor. I have emailed a poorly worded motion to the city clerk. And if this is acceptable to the vice mayor, to direct the city manager and the planning department to return to council before the final budget adoption with an analysis of any fee reductions or waivers available without creating direct expenses that might be available to the homeless garden project. And I apologize again for its poor wording. I put budget adoption at the end, Bonnie, I'm sorry.
Yes, agreeable.
Agree.
Thank you both.
There we go. Thank you. All right. Sir.
With regards to item number 6, I just want to make a clarification. When we say general fund to the roads fund, I think we might want to say paving, paving fund.
As opposed to roads fund?
We don't have a dedicated roads fund.
I think paving's broad enough to capture the intent behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To the paving fund. Okay, all right. Still agreeable? Madam?
Yes.
Yep. Everybody's good. Okay, good enough.
Can I-
Mr. Yes,
Sorry, before
please,
we move
please.
on from Councilmember Triguero's thing. So when you say return to council before budget adoption, do you mean as like an FYI or something? Because the budget adoption is the next meeting?
Yeah, my hope is that that can be provided directly to us before final adoption. Thank you.
Good, all right. Mr. Elliott, quick question for you. Your department, I get your weekly report of so many things that happen in the community, and thank you and your staff, and do a terrific job in that regard. My recollection is you have a program where organizations can apply to the Department of Parks and Recreation, say, we have something here we're going to do, and boy, if we had to pay all the costs in this thing, our thing might not happen, and can we get a little break in this or a break in that so that we can make this community thing happen? And then my recollection is you folks do a lot of that kind of thing. So what is in the budget in that regard for the upcoming fiscal year for that kind of thing?
Great question. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to bring up our Principal Management Analyst, Lindsay Bass, and I think you're speaking to the Special Event Grant Program.
Right.
I'll have Lindsay speak to that. This is a collaboration between Parks and Recreation and the City Manager's Office on the administration of this program.
Very good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Yes, each year, for the last several years, we've had $25,000 allocated for event grants. And this is a reimbursement grant program. So when people who want to hold a community event come to us and ask for help with the fees, we're able to direct them to the grant program. They can apply for that. If awarded, then we can reimburse 50% of those fees up to $2,500. So that's the cap. And for FY27, we have $25,000 allocated for that purpose.
How much again?
$25,000. And that sits in the city manager's budget. And so this is a collaboration between their office and ours to help make sure that these good events can happen across the city.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm going to imagine, Mr. Elliott, that you know a lot of these programs and you work with them closely. We have them all the time. There's one that I'm particularly interested in, the firecracker race on the 4th of July. And it really draws a lot of people into our city, and they, leave only footprints and, and so, and they leave sales tax dollars. And so we appreciate that. I would think that the firecracker race is one of those that, when we look at it on balance, boy, that brings a lot into our city and so on. And they're a small operation. I think they're attached maybe to the Sunrise Rotary or something as the sponsoring agency or sponsoring nonprofit. But that's the kind of thing I'm envisioning here, is that they would be the kind of folks who might fit into your overall program. Am I right on that?
That's exactly right. And I believe the Sunrise Rotary Club has received a grant in the past for somewhere between $700 and $1,000 for that event.
Okay. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. And Councilmember O'Hara, I see that you want to jump back into this conversation. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have Bonnie, if you might put the motion back up on the screen. I did have, for the benefit of my own processing, I wanted to make sure that we as council were aligned on what parts of this current motion that we see up on the screen hopefully are actually relevant to budget adoption versus direction that would potentially happen after budget adoption. If you could scroll up, Bonnie, I would appreciate it. Just want to make sure the maker of the motion and the seconder are all in alignment before I understand where I might vote on this, which I'm supportive of all of this, but I just want to make sure that we're all clear that as far as I can see, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shebra and Scott, and Gabriella, I don't think any of these, except for 4, are relevant to budget adoption. Is that accurate? It seems to me, if you could scroll down, Bonnie, all of these are direction for staff to work on items that were brought during budget hearings, but not necessarily amending the budget in any particular way. Is that accurate?
That's accurate for the 4 that I put forward, and number 4 being the only one that would have an actual change to this budget, language change. But I think, I don't know, if Councilmember Triguero, you want to speak to your piece?
Thank you. And Mayor, if it's okay, I did intend number 7 to come back to us so that we would have that analysis before final adoption. So related to this budget.
Okay. And then Councilmember Newsom, it appears that these are post-budget adoption.
Yes, so these would be post-budget adoption, though number 5 could have a minor impact on the budget afterwards.
I see. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I had clarity on that. And I appreciate Councilmember Triguero that indeed the 7 is potentially associated with this budget, depending on, what that analysis returns in terms of opportunities for fee reduction. With that in mind, I do think that the direction around the safe streets and the particular intersections that Councilmember Newsom pointed to, I would just want to make sure that, of course, that we would have an understanding of the costs associated with that within the context of other, safety enhancement projects that are either currently in the pipeline or forecasted for the next fiscal year, so we can have that full context and thinking through these particular intersections. But that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember.
I was having similar thoughts as Councilmember O'Hara in that I feel like 5 to me is kind of like a specific project, and I don't know how that aligns with this budget, but I know there's lots of areas of our city that need traffic improvements, and so this seems like oddly specific when I know, we all get complaints from different neighbors for various things, and so I just feel a little uncomfortable approving this specific intersection in the context that the rest of us all have, areas where people want things, and throwing everything in the kitchen soup into the budget seems strange to me but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
It seems to me that what 5, 6, and 7 are trying to do here is above and beyond what is in front of us to put some further imprint. So, for example, number 5 does not commit this council to fund or do anything. It commits the administration to get back to us and give us some options if at a future time, including at the final budget adoption, we want to do that. But then that would have to be engaged in the rest of the process we've got here. I think what the council members trying to do, I think what we're all trying to do in these is to essentially put down a marker put down a marker that says, this is important to me. And if you've got some that are important to you, that's fine as well. We can, as far as I'm concerned, do those anytime between now and when we come back in a couple of weeks to take our final action. That'd be my guess on this. You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No,
Understood.
I just trust the staff and the process, and so I was happy with what was here, and I feel like adding things on, little projects like that seems a little, I'm just not.
I understand it. Understood. All right. Make sure that we've got all these covered. Give me just a moment. It is my understanding that in a conversation earlier today that there is funding for a tenant sanctuary, correct, in the budget?
Yeah, there's funding for tenant legal services, 75,000, which we budgeted in.
75? Yeah. I know that from time to time can be a bit controversial, and I think I know why. And I think we're careful how we enter into that contract, what services we offer and so on, because there's literally two sides of every argument about, tenant issues. I understand that. But it does occur to me that given to refer to our previous conversation about the investment fund, we're headed into some pretty uncharted waters as far as I'm concerned, economically. And I do think we should not be surprised if there are stresses on tenants as costs of living go up rather substantially and issues start rising for them and so on. So I appreciate that being in the budget. All right. Further debate or discussion or request for items to be included in this motion? Seeing and hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmembers Triguero.
Aye.
Brunner.
Aye.
Newsom.
Aye.
Holder.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kalantari Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Cooley.
Aye. Motion passes and so ordered. Ms. Bush, do we have further business to come before the council?
I have nothing.
Madam City Attorney?
No.
Well, we've got agreement on that then. Councilmember Golder moves with a catch in her throat and a tear in her eye. Councilmember Triguero, with no visible emotion, seconds the motion to adjourn non-debatable. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries and so ordered. We stand adjourned. Thank you all very much for your good work.